Chapter 752. Seeing Qin Wushuang's perplexed expression, Mi Jia seemed to have realized something and asked stutteringly, "Could it be that those two bastards from the treasure pavilion of Fairy Dragon lied to me? They told you that I used the Supreme Tao armor to exchange for their things? What did they exchange for? They exchanged for something like the Recuperate Pearl, the Fish Dragon Iron Bone and the Dragon Breath Seal. The Recuperate Pearl can only deceive people like you who are below the Supreme Tao stage. To me, it's super rubbish. As for the Fish Dragon Iron Bone, other than making Supreme Tao weapons, what other fart use does it have? The Dragon's Breath Seal was simply trash. If I'm happy, it's not a problem to give you 8 or 10 scrolls. Alright, then I don't mind if you give me 8 or 10 scrolls." Qin Wushuang smiled faintly. Mi Jia was instantly speechless. After a long while, she said with an unbearable tone, "You really don't have any manners. Reaching out your hand to ask a girl for things, why don't you give me the graceful spiritual bow? Didn't you say that you would give me 8 or 10 scrolls?" Qin Wushuang spread out his hands. "That's only if I'm happy. Your current attitude makes me very unhappy. Alright, don't talk nonsense. Are you interested in going to the Eastern Polar Region together? The Eastern Polar Region, you can't go by yourself. Why are you dragging me in?" Qin Wushuang was doubtful. "It's said that those who have the graceful spiritual bow have great fortune. I've always had good luck. Dragging in a person with great fortune can increase my luck. Besides, it's rumored that the Golden Crow has been reborn in the rushing current valley. Since you have the graceful spiritual bow, you can learn from the immemorial great God Yi. At the crucial moment, you can block it." Mi Jia was frank and did not conceal anything. Qin Wushuang said unhappily, "So you want me to be a human shield?" Mi Jia laughed mischievously and said, "Don't worry. It's impossible for us to be so unlucky in the surrounding million miles of the rushing current valley. Let's not talk about whether the rumor about the Golden Crow is true. Even if it's true, can we bump into it in the surrounding million miles? Our luck can't be that bad, right?" Having said that, Qin Wushuang did not have any doubts about Mi Jia's motive. Additionally, the suggestion of this unruly woman was somewhat attractive. To Qin Wushuang, advancing to the Supreme Tao stage was already a matter of success when the conditions were right. After entering the Supreme Tao stage, Qin Wushuang would be the most urgent matter. If he were to use the power of the Divine Soul to control the golem puppet, it would not be impossible for it to possess the same combat power as the main body. Therefore, Qin Wushuang looked forward to the golem puppet greatly. By that time, he would not be alone. "Hey, stop dilly-dallying. Can you or not?" Mi Jia asked impatiently. "Not to me, not to me, to me, to you, to me, to be, to you, to me, I, not, I, and I, me. To him, to him, to him, to him, to say, to him, to be, not to be, to him, it to him, not to him, to not to him, to him." Therefore, Qin Wushuang would raise the price and strive to earn more benefit. "What do you want? Just say it." When Mi Jia saw Qin Wushuang loosening his tone, she immediately seized the opportunity to speak. "Besides what you said, 10 scrolls of Dragon Breath Seal. Also, I have a presumptuous request." "Presumptuous request?" Mi Jia showed an alert face. "What do you want?" "Look at you, I am not interested in you." Qin Wushuang rolled his eyes. "Since you have entered the Supreme Tao stage, I want you to do me a favor." "What favor, tell me?" Mi Jia appeared to be easy to talk to. "I have a divine dragon egg. Most likely, only an elite warrior of the Supreme Tao stage of the Dragon Clan can incubate it with the dragon breath. Therefore, I want to ask you for a favor." Mi Jia laughed with a p sound. "You want me to be a wet nurse? You don't seem to be a wet nurse, right? It's just an incubation." Mi Jia said with a beaming smile, "You also have a time to ask me for a favor. Alright, I will reluctantly do it. However, you are not allowed to tell anyone about this matter. Otherwise, I will not let you off." Who should I tell? Qin Wushuang said innocently. That's a lot. Sumi of the Coiled Dragon Clan. That naughty girl, you are not allowed to tell anyone. Do you understand? Don't worry, I am not that talkative. Qin Wushuang waved his hand. Just these conditions? Mi Jia asked. Just these. Why? You still think it's not enough? Qin Wushuang asked with a faint smile. This is still not enough? Don't be too greedy. Mi Jia was going crazy. Qin Wushuang took out the egg of the demonic dragon. Suddenly, a strong ancient aura caused a very ancient aura to appear in the surroundings. Where did you steal this? Mi Jia's eyes lit up at once. Don't speak so unpleasantly, all right? Tell me, how many days can you finish it? I can't guarantee this. What if the little guy inside is unwilling to come out after a long time? I will do my best. However, you must protect me. Or else, after I consume my dragon breath, it would be troublesome if a powerful enemy comes. Of course, I am not someone who doesn't value the code of brotherhood, right? That's hard to say, Mi Jia said with a snort. Follow me, I will take you to a place. Qin Wushuang had never thought that he would form an alliance with this sorceress. Indeed, the affairs of the world were unpredictable. However, he must admit that this sorceress did have some skills. Indeed, at this endless eastern sea, she was like a fish in water. After 7 days, the two of them arrived at a desolate place. Mi Jia said, Let's do it here. I will say it again, protect me obediently, you are not allowed to peek. Don't be so smug. If you succeed, I will accompany you to the rushing current valley. If not, forgive me for not accompanying you. Mi Jia clenched her pink fists. Don't worry, when I step out, I will guarantee your success. Qin Wushuang nodded and followed Mi Jia with his eyes as she entered the chosen place. Qin Wushuang took out the sealed scroll and only summoned the 4 spiritual beasts at the exquisite mysterious boundary stage. As soon as that swallowing sky lion dragon came out, instantly he became energetic. Endless Eastern Sea, Master, you must let us come out to play more at this endless Eastern Sea. Dark Mysterious Snake also gave a long sigh. Truly absent-minded, I didn't expect that we could return to the endless Eastern Sea alive. Qin Wushuang felt somewhat sympathetic to this sealed spiritual beast. After all, it was an undeserved disaster. A good spiritual beast was sealed into the scroll and lost its freedom. You two don't need to be sad. When I can break the seal, I will certainly help you regain your freedom. Swallowing Sky Lion Dragon and Dark Mysterious Snake were endlessly grateful. Master, if you can restore our freedom, in this lifetime, we will still be your contract spiritual beasts and will never betray you. Ha ha, when I restore your freedom, I never thought of tying you down. Swallowing Sky Lion Dragon said with gratitude, Master, it's rare for a human martial artist to have someone as benevolent and righteous as you. Although it's tragic that we were sealed, there was no other way. Qin Wushuang asked curiously, Just who was the one that sealed you guys? Swallowing Sky Lion Dragon and Dark Mysterious Snake both revealed a somewhat ashamed expression as they shook their heads. We don't even know who he is. However, we do know that before him, we did not have any power to resist. His power did not seem to belong to this world. With a casual move of his finger, he seemed to be able to move mountains and seas and stir up the heavens and earth. Qin Wushuang knew that most likely the person that sealed them was the owner of the 7 deadly arrays formation. However, these sealed spiritual beasts did not know who had sealed them. It was apparent how mysterious the owner of the 7 deadly arrays formation was. This way, it seemed that he could only wait until he entered the 6th loop or even the 7th loop to know the inside story. Casting aside these distracting thoughts, Qin Wushuang took out 4 scrolls of Dragon Breath Seal and said, The 4 of you are my right-hand men and have contributed greatly. These 4 scrolls of Dragon Breath Seal are the strongest Dragon Breath attacks of the Supreme Tao Dragon. At critical moments they can be used to save your life. Each of you will have one scroll. Do not use it unless it is a matter of life and death." The 4 sealed spiritual beasts were all overjoyed as they received the scrolls. "All right, follow my instructions. Each of you will guard a position. Once there are any abnormal movements, immediately respond," Qin Wushuang ordered. With the 4 sealed spiritual beasts guarding the periphery and him providing support in the inner layer, although it could not be said that it was impregnable, it would not be much of a problem to deal with ordinary disturbances. During the 3 days, Qin Wushuang cultivated with the Recuperate Pearl while observing all the movement. Feeling the wonders of the Recuperate Pearl, Qin Wushuang secretly sighed. This business was really profitable. This Recuperate Pearl actually allowed his cultivation to progress by leaps and bounds. In terms of speed, it actually increased by 3 to 4 times. It greatly exceeded the effect of the treasure pavilion of Fairy Dragon Yun King's introduction. Qin Wushuang knew that this Recuperate Pearl was so effective for him. Most likely it was because he was blessed by the Supreme Tao baptism. If it was not because he already had the foundation of the Supreme Tao in his body, this Recuperate Pearl would definitely not be so useful. While he was thinking, he suddenly heard Mi Jia's delicate cry. Then, a red light accompanied by the purple gas rose up in a crisscross pattern. The mist rose up densely and was filled with a mysterious aura. "Little guy, you are finally willing to come out?" Mi Jia appeared to be somewhat exhausted. She cried out weakly, "Little Wushuang, get over here." Qin Wushuang was overjoyed and rushed in. He saw a dragon beast the size of a fox emitting purple gas all over its body. It rolled its quick-witted eyes and was filled with curiosity at the surroundings. When it saw Qin Wushuang, it was stunned at first. Then, it pounced on him with boundless joy, as if a child had seen its mother. Even Mi Jia was stunned. She muttered and scolded, "Little heartless, I spent so much energy to hatch you, and in the blink of an eye, you don't want to admit it?" That little dragon beast rubbed against Qin Wushuang's body intimately. It was calling something, "Chun air, Chun air." When Mi Jia heard this, she could not help but laugh. Due to her weakness, and this laugh was too sudden, she kept coughing. Qin Wushuang was already used to this witch's style. When he saw her laughing for no reason, he was not surprised. "Do you know what it said?" Mi Jia asked while laughing. "What?" Qin Wushuang's scalp was somewhat numb. "It called you daddy." Mi Jia pulled a long face and said in deadly earnest, "Qin Wushuang, which female dragon did you have illicit relations with? You even have a baby dragon." Qin Wushuang was dumbstruck. This was simply a bolt from the blue. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 753. With his eyes wide open, Qin Wushuang stared at Mi Jia carefully. Obviously, he wanted to see if she was playing tricks on him again. Although Mi Jia's expression was strange, it did not seem like she was lying. Qin Wushuang was very proficient in the beast language. However, the dragon race was the king of the beast race and had a unique dragon language. This was something that he could not understand. That baby dragon rubbed against Qin Wushuang's chest for a while before hugging Qin Wushuang's neck. It was just like a spoiled child. It was still calling out, "Chun air, Chun air." Qin Wushuang was baffled. Could it be that the pronunciation of Chun air meant father in the dragon language? Just as he was hesitating, that baby dragon opened its mouth and turned to look at Mi Jia. It called out again, "Ai Simo, ah?" Mi Jia was dumbfounded at once. A string of dragon language came out from her mouth. Together with her expression, it was as if she was scolding the baby dragon. That baby dragon was speechless. It winked at Mi Jia with a very unhappy look. Qin Wushuang made a hand gesture and released a seal summon. Those 4 spiritual beasts rushed over one after another. Qin Wushuang said to Swallowing Sky Lion Dragon, "Swallowing Sky, come over." Let me ask you, are you proficient in the dragon language? Master, I am from the dragon race. Of course, I am proficient in the dragon language. Swallowing Sky Lion Dragon answered. While sizing up Mi Jia, its eyes revealed traces of worship. Your Excellency, divine beast of the dragon race, Swallowing Sky is here to pay respects. Mi Jia snorted and glared at Swallowing Sky. Don't talk nonsense. Swallowing Sky, what does Chun Er mean in the dragon language? Qin Wushuang asked. That is Father's idea. Swallowing Sky answered honestly. Qin Wushuang was stunned. It was indeed Father's idea. Since when did he become the father of this baby dragon? Mi Jia said with a smile that was not a smile. Boy Wushuang, do you still not want to admit it? Quickly tell me the truth. Which female dragon did you have an affair with? TSK, what a powerful female dragon. She was a divine beast the moment she was born. Could it be a primordial divine dragon? Young Wushuang, you are so strong. Even the immemorial divine dragon was conquered by you. That baby dragon shouted at Mi Jia. Ai Simo, Ai Simo. Mi Jia was driven mad on the spot. She roared, Don't call me that. The sky-devouring lion dragon was at a loss. He looked at the baby dragon, then at Mi Jia, and then at Qin Wushuang. He asked curiously, Master, is it true that this baby dragon calls this lady mother? Judging from her aura, this young lady should be from the Horned Dragon clan, right? This dragon baby did not seem to belong to the 9 true dragon clans, but it did not seem to belong to the 9 true dragon clans either. Strange. Michael roared, Stinky bitch, didn't I tell you not to talk nonsense? Swallowing Sky Lion Dragon said, Young lady of the Horned Dragon clan, I dare not answer my master's question. Qin Wushuang curled his lips and said to Long Bao Bao, Little fellow, don't randomly shout. She has such a bad temper, how could she be your mother? Also, I am not your father, understand? That baby dragon blinked its eyes as if it understood, yet not fully. There were some traces of grievance in its expression as it looked at Qin Wushuang anxiously. Its little appearance would make one's heart ache. Mi Jia put her hands on her tiny waist and cried out, Young Wushuang, what do you mean? You are saying that I have a bad temper in front of me, are you slapping my face? Could it be that you have a good temper? Mi Jia said leisurely, My temper is not good. However, only I am allowed to do it, and you are not allowed to say it, understand? Qin Wushuang patted that baby dragon lightly and chuckled. Anyways, I will not lower myself to your level. This time you have worked hard, thank you. Mi Jia gave a snort. This is more like something a human would say. Then, she shot a glance at the sky-devouring lion dragon and the other spiritual beasts. Young Wushuang, you are good. All the spiritual beasts of the endless eastern sea have been subdued by you. Qin Wushuang laughed and did not speak a word. As he caressed that baby dragon, he felt extremely regretful. It would have been great if the other phantom dragon egg was also here. He could have let Mi Jia hatch it in one breath. It would be a pity if he did not use the free labor. Seeing your weak appearance, let's rest for a few days, Qin Wushuang said. Mi Jia gave a snort. At least you did not burn the bridge after crossing the river. Of course I will rest. However, you must explain clearly where you got this divine dragon egg. It seems there is no need to explain this, right? Mi Jia said. If you don't want to die, it's best to explain clearly. Regardless of the true 9 dragon clans or the non-traditional 9 dragon clans, it's impossible for a newborn baby dragon to enter the Supreme Tao stage directly. The bloodline of this dragon beast is extremely pure. Even the forefather dragon clan may not guarantee that each bloodline will enter the Supreme Tao stage directly. What about it? Qin Wushuang disapproved. What about it? Tell me honestly, did you steal it from the forefather dragon clan? If that's the case, then you are doomed. When Mi Jia said this, her expression also became somewhat solemn. There were traces of fear flashing across her eyes. Qin Wushuang shrugged. You have a rich imagination. This baby dragon is not related to the endless eastern sea. This way you can rest assured, right? Mi Jia finally felt relieved as she caressed her chest. That's good, or else you would be doomed. Once the forefather dragon clan sets their eyes on you, I cannot save you. When she said this, Mi Jia was still somewhat worried. By the way, don't blame me for not reminding you, this baby dragon, you must not show off too much. In case the elite warriors of the dragon clan set their eyes on you, it's possible for them to develop covetous intentions. At that time, as a father, you can only watch as your obedient son is snatched away by someone else. Most likely, they will kill your father along the way, Mi Jia added as if rejoicing in others' misfortune. Qin Wushuang cast away the corner of his mouth. Can't you say something more auspicious? Clearly, Mi Jia was rather interested in this baby dragon as she probed. Young Wushuang, let me discuss something with you. What? When Qin Wushuang saw her eyes, he asked with vigilance. Lend me your baby dragon to play with for 2 days. By the way, I can teach it to speak. You don't want to have an idiotic baby dragon, right? Mi Jia asked with a chuckle. Qin Wushuang was not reassured as he always felt that this woman had ulterior motives. Are you that kind? Mi Jia said with a panting of anger. I just cannot bear to see it become an idiot at your place, all right? Do you know the dragon language? Do you know what it needs? Will you take care of it? Qin Wushuang waved his hand. Put away your line of questioning. Since you want to be a wet nurse so much, I will satisfy you. Little one, that woman wants to be your wet nurse, do you agree? The baby dragon was still blinking its eyes as it looked at Mi Jia with its watery eyes. It was somewhat vigilant. Clearly, it was still somewhat conflicted with Mi Jia's action of berating it just now. Mi Jia was like a suspect of kidnapping a child as she said with an extremely seductive tone, Little one, let me play with you. We all have noble dragon bloodline. The baby dragon stuck out its little butt and swayed its tail proudly a few times at Mi Jia. Then, it scuttled onto Qin Wushuang's shoulder and made a few funny faces at Mi Jia. When Qin Wushuang saw this, he laughed. Miss Mi Jia, look, your fierceness has scared it. It is still a little conflicted with you. You want to be a wet nurse, but it won't even give you the chance. Mi Jia said angrily. It's all your fault for speaking ill of me. It seems that I have to slowly nurture a relationship with it. Humph, young Wushuang, just you wait, I will definitely succeed in seizing your pet. Qin Wushuang turned around and said to Swallowing Sky Lion Dragon, Swallowing Sky, you are also from the Dragon Clan, you will be in charge of being its first teacher. Swallowing Sky Lion Dragon was overwhelmed by the favor. Master, how would I dare to be its first teacher? It's a supreme Dao dragon beast. Little master? Qin Wushuang almost fainted. It seemed that he really had to give this little one a name. Or else, it might really get the wrong idea. What name should he give it? That's right, Miss Mi Jia. Is this little one the same gender as you or me? Qin Wushuang was really uncertain about the gender of this baby dragon. Mi Jia shouted angrily, Can't you see for yourself? As soon as she finished speaking, she immediately felt that something was not right. She laughed with a pft and her face was crimson red. This question was originally nothing, but when she thought about it in a complicated way, she felt that it was very ambiguous. It's a girl. It was still Swallowing Sky Lion Dragon that helped her out. Oh, a girl, what name should I give her? Qin Wushuang muttered. Let's call her Ai Simo, Mi Jia said. Many girls from the Dragon Clan have this nickname. Isn't that what mother means? Mi Jia said angrily. That can also be used as a nickname. Qin Wushuang looked at Swallowing Sky Lion Dragon suspiciously. Swallowing Sky Lion Dragon's face was slightly red as it nodded and said, There is such a saying. Qin Wushuang did not understand the dragon language and was at a loss. He could only go with the flow. Then let's call her Ai Simo. That baby dragon seemed to know that it had a name. It rubbed against Qin Wushuang's head twice and stretched its waist, looking like it was celebrating. With the appearance of this little one, Swallowing Sky Lion Dragon's life immediately became rich. Although Mi Jia was recovering her strength, she could not help but come over to tease this little one from time to time. Obviously, borrowing her dragon breath to hatch AI Simo also made Mi Jia's maternal instincts unknowingly overflow. A demoness suddenly emitting a kind of radiance of maternal love made Qin Wuxuang feel very strange. And Mi Jia also had an excuse to mock Qin Wuxuang from then on. She would ask Qin Wuxuang which female dragon had an ill-fated relationship with when she had nothing to do. Qin Wuxuang could only ask the heavens speechlessly. And no matter how much effort Swallowing Sky Lion and Mi Jia put in, AI Simo was still the closest to Qin Wuxuang. This made Mi Jia very jealous. A sour feeling turned into endless complaints and ridicule. Qin Wuxuang was used to it and simply turned a deaf ear. Swallowing Sky, tell me, why does AI Simo call me daddy? Qin Wuxuang could not help but ask. Swallowing Sky Lion Dragon said in surprise, Boss, I also find it strange. At first, I did not understand. But these few days, didn't you feel it? I seem to have sensed a powerful dragon aura in your body. It is of the same origin as AI Simo's dragon breath. Boss, this AI Simo, could it really be? Qin Wuxuang flatly denied, there is no such thing. You said its breath is of the same origin as mine? Yes. Only then did Qin Wuxuang come to a realization. It must be like this. Qin Wuxuang thought of the coiling dragon palace in the black Dead Sea, of the floating snow house, and the encounter in the dragon cave. Yes, it must be like that. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support legal reading. Chapter 754. Even Mi Jia looked at Qin Wuxuang with a somewhat different gaze in these few days. Clearly, Mi Jia had also grasped the so-called dragon presence of the Swallowing Sky Lion. After resting for 7 days, Mi Jia had finally recovered and the group was ready to depart. If they were to travel in a hurry, the Swallowing Sky Lion Dragon could only enter the seal. Or else, it would certainly affect their speed. The great responsibility of taking care of AI Simo could only fall on Mi Jia's head. This made Mi Jia feel as if her scheme had succeeded. She shot a threatening glance at Qin Wuxuang. Qin Wuxuang mumbled, Don't teach AI Simo your sorceress ways. Mi Jia said with a leisurely smile, This little one is calling me mother. As her mother, I can teach her however I want. Humph, AI Simo is untainted. She will not be led astray by you. Mi Jia roared with laughter. Wrong, wrong. My goal is to nurture her into the future #1 sorceress of the dragon clan. People will hide when they see her, flowers will wither when they see her, grass will not grow when she walks past, and the bridges she passes will collapse immediately. Qin Wuxuang knew that most likely even if the heavens were struck by lightning, it would not stop Mi Jia's ambition to train AI Simo. Although he had said it verbally, in fact, he was not against it. With such a supreme Dao dragon beast, it would be a good choice to train with Mi Jia's crazy style. In the future, she would be a great helper if she were to be nurtured into a strange and incomparably valiant dragon beast. Thinking here, Qin Wuxuang waved his hand and said, After being delayed for so many days, we must hurry. Haha, what's the rush? Didn't you want to see the forefather dragon clan of the first-rate dragon palace? Let me tell you, when we get there, certainly we will see people of the forefather dragon clan. Do you believe me? Qin Wuxuang did not doubt that the forefather dragon clan had issued the 9 dragon order and gathered the 18 dragon clans for an emergency meeting to deal with the changes at the eastern polar region. When they went to the eastern polar region, it was certain that they would meet the forefather dragon clan. However, Qin Wuxuang was also somewhat worried. Currently, the forefather dragon clan was in a terrible fix. Would they have the leisure to interfere with the matters of the Xianyuan Mound? It was useless to think too much. Now, he could only take one step at a time. Qin Wushuang spurred himself on and thought inwardly, regardless of whether the forefather dragon clan will step out or not, what I need to do is to increase my strength. If I can keep increasing my strength in these dozen years, with the graceful spiritual bow and the bloodline of the immemorial phantom dragon, it's not impossible for me to return to the Xian Yuan Mound. Relying on the heavens, relying on the earth, relying on other people, none of them are reliable. Only oneself is the most reliable. Qin Wushuang's heart surged with a sense of heroism. Not long after they walked, Mi Jia suddenly laughed. Young Wushuang, you are very popular now, do you know? If you have something to say, just say it. Qin Wushuang snapped. Now, across the entire endless Eastern Sea, 17 or 18 of the 20 abyss have a bounty for your head. For the elite warriors from different major forbidden spiritual zones, at least hundreds of people had entered the endless Eastern Sea. Each of them were elite warriors of the Supreme Tao stage. This does not include the elite warriors of the Dragon Clan at the endless Eastern Sea. Qin Wushuang said lightly, "What about it, aren't I still living well?" Mi Jia said with a leisurely smile, "Say, if I secretly report you, when I get this bounty, will I count until my hands cramp? You won't. I promise you, you won't even have the chance to count," Qin Wushuang said coldly. "Ha ha, you are too lacking in manners, you can't take a joke." Mi Jia appeared to be overflowing with love as she caressed Ai Simo. She laughed. "Regardless, you are Ai Simo's father. We cannot let our child be fatherless at a young age, right? Don't worry, I will not report you, don't put on that ghostly look." Qin Wushuang let out a sigh of relief. For this sorceress, a few words from her could make one feel anxious. If she were to truly report him in secret and expose his whereabouts, it would be truly troublesome. Just when he was about to speak, suddenly, his expression changed slightly as he glared at Mi Jia. "You still say you didn't betray me? What do you mean?" Mi Jia was baffled. Qin Wushuang stared at the valley in front of him. "Don't act dumb." Mi Jia's expression also changed slightly. She operated her dragon breath and sensed slightly. Then, she reprimanded, "Who is it? Sneaking around, come out." Qin Wushuang sneered and did not speak. However, he held his breath with rapt attention and pulled some distance away from Mi Jia. When Mi Jia saw Qin Wushuang's little action, her expression sank even more. She said stutteringly, "Do you really think that it was me who attracted them? The innocent knows that they are innocent," Qin Wushuang said indifferently. His gaze was deep as he looked over. Obviously, there were at least 4 to 5 Supreme Tao elite warriors in front of him, and they were all experts of the Dragon Clan. All of them had different auras of the Dragon Clan. Mi Jia bit her lips and transmitted her voice. "Little Wushuang, I said before that I did not betray you. It's up to you to believe it or not." Qin Wushuang glanced at her from the corner of his eyes. "Don't be in a hurry to explain. Think about how to get rid of these uninvited guests." As he was speaking, 5 great lights burst forth from the opposite side at the same time. Like 5 long rainbows, they shot into the sky, drew a beautiful arc and landed not far in front of Mi Jia. "Miss Mi Jia, long time no see. TSK, the princess of the Horned Dragon Clan is getting sexier." When Mi Jia saw these people, a hint of surprise and fear flashed across her beautiful face. She transmitted her voice to Qin Wushuang. "These 5 fellows are all experts of the Dragon Clan who have been famous for a long time. 2 of them are from the Winged Dragon Clan, 2 are from the Flood Dragon Clan, and the last one is from the Hornless Dragon Clan." Qin Wushuang was secretly on guard. He nodded slightly but did not answer. These 5 people said with a faint smile, "Miss Mi Jia, we have been waiting here for a long time." Mi Jia said indifferently, "I don't seem to have any interactions with you, right? You don't have to wait. If you have something to say, just say it. If not, make way." TSK, They all say that the little witch of the Horned Dragon clan is hard to please and disdains men. Why is there a pretty boy by your side this time, and it seems that he even has a doll? Mi-jia's face turned cold. Do you believe that I will pull out your tongue? Haha, Miss Mi-jia, it's still useful to use these words to scare others. It seems that it's not enough to scare us brothers. Mi-jia also knew that these few people were all Supreme Tao elite warriors. Moreover, they were not people of her generation. For a moment, she could not figure out their intentions. All right, Miss Mi-jia, us brothers still respect your Horned Dragon clan very much. We are all people of the 9 true dragon clans, there's no need to fall out with us. Today, as long as you don't interfere and hand that kid over to us, you can leave now. A guy with a big nose whose whole body was covered in green scales said. Qin Wushuang sneered and thought, it's here. What should be here is finally here. Don't look at Mi-jia's usual crazy behavior. At this moment, she was incredibly calm. She asked with a straight face, you want to keep him, do you know who he is? Haha, if I've guessed correctly, he should be some stray dog that escaped from the Xianyuan mound, right? That guy with green scales said. Mi-jia shouted, clean your mouth, it's hard to say who is the stray dog. I was wondering why you guys gathered together, it seems that you want to join hands to seize that graceful spiritual bow. Miss Mi-jia, so you also want that graceful spiritual bow? Very good, everyone has the same goal. You should stand on our side. Mi-jia said with a cold sneer, I think you guys are blind. With your little eyesight, you are still looking for the graceful spiritual bow? Could it be that you can't see that this person is an elite warrior of our dragon clan? Elite warrior of the dragon clan? That guy with green scales was stunned. Don't joke around, our information is accurate. Miss Mi-jia, don't think that your Horned Dragon clan's information network is powerful. Our information network is also not weak. Along the way, you have stayed at the treasure pavilion of Fairy Dragon and investigated a person. It should be this person before us, right? Now, who doesn't know that Qin Wushuang has been to the treasure pavilion of Fairy Dragon? Qin Wushuang felt apprehensive inwardly. Indeed, it was that treasure pavilion of Fairy Dragon that exposed a flaw. Qin Wushuang secretly cursed those 2 guys from the treasure pavilion of Fairy Dragon. They spoke in a dignified manner, saying that there were business rules and they would not disclose the information of their customers. Then, they sold him out. Mi-jia chuckled and said with a disdainful tone, truly an incorrigible idiot. Even if you can't recognize him, you should be able to feel the dragon breath from his body, right? When Qin Wushuang heard these words, he was moved inwardly. Faintly discernible, he emitted a wave of faint dragon breath. As soon as this dragon breath overflowed, instantly the complexion of those 5 people changed. They looked at each other in dismay and revealed a face full of confusion. According to their information, this person followed Mi-jia. Most likely, he should be that Qin Wushuang. However, how could he emit the dragon breath? Could it be that they had truly recognized the wrong person? This person was an elite warrior of the dragon clan? That guy in cyan armor was half convinced and half doubtful. The information was accurate, yet the current situation clearly made them feel confused. If he was truly that Qin Wushuang, how could he emit the dragon breath? They had never heard of the Qin disciple of the Heavenly Emperor Mountain having any relationship with the Dragon Clan. Another person asked with an indifferent tone, Miss Mi-jia, could it be that you have already merged? Your dragon breath has merged with his body, right? Instantly, half of Mi-jia's face turned red. She scolded, don't you have eyes? Not to mention that I am still a virgin. My dragon breath is completely different from his, are you blind, can you not see it? That person sensed slightly and indeed, there was such a matter. These 5 were all elite warriors of the Supreme Tao stage. When they sensed the presence emitted by Qin Wushuang, they felt apprehensive inwardly. When they looked at Qin Wushuang's eyes, instantly they became somewhat nervous. What a pure primordial aura this was! For such dragon breath, even many disciples of the forefather dragon clan did not possess it. Just where did this young man come from? How could he possess such an ancient presence of the dragon clan? Could it be the inheritance of the immemorial bloodline? As Qin Wushuang looked at these 5 supreme Tao warriors, he felt apprehensive inwardly. If he were to tear off all pretenses and fight 1 against 5, or 2 against 5, his chances of winning would not be great. These 5 people were different from Mi Jia. They were at least at the 3rd or 4th calamity of the coagulate supreme Tao stage. It would be alright if there were 1 or 2 of them. However, with 5 of them at the same time, even with the graceful spiritual bow, it would be difficult to win. In the worst case, he would be in danger of being besieged. Therefore, he restrained himself and would not act out for the time being. Instead, he used the power of the immemorial phantom dragon to keep emitting it to form a continuous sense of oppression. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please log on to www.chidian.com. More chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 755. Those 5 people were supreme Tao experts after all. They were experienced and knowledgeable. Although they felt that the matter was a little strange and doubtful, they didn't have much fear. Miss Mi Jia, you said that he's not Qin Wushuang, then who is he? Mi Jia sneered and said, I'm afraid that after I tell you, at least half of you here will die. Such a big name? A disciple of the ancestral dragon tribe? Humph, I won't say anything. If you feel that you're strong enough, then go ahead and offend me. I guarantee that after I tell you, there will definitely be blood splattered within 5 steps of you. Those 5 people were a little afraid. They sized up Qin Wushuang and were hesitating whether they should shed all pretense of cordiality or not. Qin Wushuang asked leisurely, You want to know my identity, right? Those 5 people narrowed their eyes and looked at Qin Wushuang. Obviously, they didn't deny it. Their gazes were fixed on Qin Wushuang with some valiance. Just like what Miss Mi Jia said, if you want to know, you must be prepared to die. Mi Jia also secretly admired this Qin Wushuang. In this kind of situation, this person acted as if nothing had happened and didn't care about the danger at all. This psychological quality was indeed good. That guy with cyan scales said, Humph, no matter what your identity is, we can only offend you today. If it wasn't for that Qin Wushuang, we'll take it that we've offended you. We'll definitely apologize to you. This is called better to kill 1,000 by mistake than to let 1 go by mistake. As soon as these words were spoken, the other 4 nodded their heads one after another. With someone taking the lead, the others naturally gained courage and became more confident. There were 5 of them. In this place where there was no village ahead and no shop behind, once a conflict broke out, it wasn't impossible to destroy the corpses and destroy the evidence. So what if his origin was unknown? So what if he was from the horned dragon tribe? In front of absolute benefits, everything was fleeting clouds. Unless he was a disciple of the ancestral dragon tribe. Mi Jia said angrily, You 5 are really audacious. In that case, you're definitely going to intercept him today, right? Miss Mi Jia, we've already said that there's nothing for you here. If you want to leave, we won't stop you. If he wants to leave, we will not stop him as long as he can show us evidence that we are convinced of. Mi Jia nodded and walked towards Qin Wushuang. She said, In that case, you won't give up until you show some evidence. Even though he said that, he sent a telepathic message, Come close to me, and I'll use a secret technique to take you away. Qin Wushuang was actually prepared to shed all pretenses of cordiality. After hearing Mi Jia's words, he was no longer in a hurry. If he could avoid conflict, he would not want to slaughter people of the Dragon Clan within the endless Eastern Sea. Miss Mi Jia, I advise you not to play any tricks. Mi Jia sneered and said, All of you can die now. Xiao Chen raised his hand and the whip suddenly danced. A scarlet light that looked like a waterfall suddenly soared. As soon as the light screen appeared, it engulfed Qin Wushuang, Mi Jia, and Ai Simo. With a roll of the light, Qin Wushuang and Mi Jia seemed to have been drawn into a strange space. The sound of scolding rang out in his ears. "Oh no, he's running away! Indeed, this slut is playing tricks. She must have a guilty conscience for doing this. That kid must be Qin Wushuang. Yes, this slut, does she want to take it all for herself?" Amidst the continuous scolding, this burst of power already transported Qin Wushuang and Ai Simo to a place a few thousand miles away. Mi Jia stopped with a pale face. She muttered and swore, "Those 5 bastards, they scolded me well." Qin Wushuang shrugged his shoulders. "If you don't feel good, then go back and teach them a lesson." Mi Jia rolled her eyes. "I paid such a great price to escape. Am I going back to throw away my life? Do you really think they are some kind people?" Qin Wushuang said with a smile, "I didn't expect that sorceress would have moments of fear. Darn kid, you are burning the bridge after crossing the river. If it weren't for you, I would not have activated my life protection talisman. I only have a few in total." Only then did Qin Wushuang know that what this Mi Jia used was something similar to the Heaven Escape Tome. It was just that the Heaven Escape Tome might be more domineering and the escape route would be even further. She might be able to escape to at least a few thousand miles away. However, to experts, escaping to a few thousand miles away was basically bidding farewell to danger. Seeing that Qin Wushuang was silent, Mi Jia muttered, "Also, don't be smug and think that I'm helping you. I just hate it when people wrongly accuse me." Qin Wushuang knew what she was referring to. He spread out his hand. "All right, I've wrongly accused you earlier. Humph, stop it. What's the use of apologizing? I'm just helping you out for Ai Simo's sake." Ai Simo rubbed against Mi Jia's face a few times to express her gratitude and intimacy. Only then did Mi Jia's mood ease a little. "All right, little fellow, I know that you are biased towards your cheap father. I'm magnanimous and won't lower myself to his level." Qin Wushuang touched his nose. He knew that he could not provoke this gunpowder barrel at this time. His gaze was blurred as he looked at the direction where they escaped from. He said leisurely, "Miss Mi Jia, those 5 bastards have gone too far. I'm unwilling to leave just like that." "What do you want to do?" Mi Jia asked suspiciously when she saw Qin Wushuang's crazed look. "I'm thinking that if we turn back and ambush them now and give them a surprise, it would definitely be very satisfying, right?" Mi Jia said angrily. "Do you really think that you're invincible? 5 deity realm powerhouses, can you deal with them?" "It's not easy to deal with the 5 of them together. However, if the tactics are used well, it's not like there's nothing to be done. Those 5 fellows have the ugly look of an adjudicator. They scolded me well. If I don't vent my anger, how can I make a breakthrough to the Supreme Tao stage?" Only then did Mi Jia realize that Qin Wushuang was not joking. She had always thought that she was crazy. Today, she finally learned that there were people who were crazier than her. "If you want to die, then go ahead," she roared in exasperation. "Miss Mi Jia, I'm not speaking out of anger. It's very good that you're leading me to retreat. I'm very grateful. However, under the circumstances at that time, we didn't have the power to fight. That doesn't mean that we don't have the power to fight now. If you're afraid, we can break up the alliance now. I can also handle it alone." Mi Jia said angrily, "You can handle it? How? 5 Supreme Tao powerhouses, what was he going to do? Even my father doesn't have the confidence to deal with 5 coagulate Supreme Tao experts at the same time. Don't forget why they're here." Graceful spiritual bow? Mi Jia's expression changed in shock. "Yes," Qin Wushuang said leisurely, "it seems that it's necessary for me to let you see what the power of the graceful spiritual bow is. At that time, in front of you, I left some leeway. Moreover, at that time, my cultivation had yet to enter the peak of the common mysterious realm. Today, if we use the right tactics, I guarantee that it won't be a situation of 2 against 5. If we can kill 1 or 2 of them with a sneak attack, then we'll be fighting 2 against 3. You can kill 2 of them? I'm 90% sure. If it's a sneak attack. Qin Wushuang was full of confidence. Yes, if you can kill 2 of them, then it'll be 3 against 3. Mi Jia pointed at Ai Simo, who was in her arms. Don't forget, this cheap daughter of yours is also a Supreme Tao expert. Although her power of the Supreme Tao has yet to awaken completely, her primordial bloodline is extremely terrifying. Her current combat power is most likely not inferior to mine. Once her primordial bloodline is awakened once, even an 8th Tribulation Coagulate Supreme Tao expert may not be her opponent. So powerful? Qin Wushuang was shocked. Ai Simo raised her head with an arrogant look. Her mouth squirmed left and right, looking very confident. Qin Wushuang suddenly said, Miss Mi Jia, when will you fulfill your promise of 10 dragon breath seals? Mi Jia rolled her eyes at him. Miser, you're urging me to pay again. Are you afraid that I won't pay? It's not that I'm afraid that you'll go back on your word. I'm thinking that if I summon 2 more spiritual beasts at the peak of the common mysterious realm, and each of them has a dragon breath seal to attack, I might be able to kill 3 opponents suddenly. Who knows? Mi Jia's expression suddenly became interesting. She slapped her thigh. Yes, I forgot that you still have a group of shrimp soldiers and crab generals. By the way, where's that stinky monkey? Don't ask too much about this. Did you bring the dragon breath seals? Mi Jia sighed. You're really a debt collector. Take it. After saying that, she waved her hand as if she was performing a magic trick. A stack of dragon breath seals was thrown over. Qin Wushuang caught it. Haha, good stuff. Nonsense, that's one of the life-saving talismans my father made for me. For the powerful attack of a transformation Supreme Tao elite warrior, if one is not prepared, it's more than enough to kill a coagulate Supreme Tao warrior. The key point is we cannot let their divine soul escape, or else there will always be trouble in the future. Qin Wushuang said leisurely, Under my graceful spiritual bow, I never pay attention to the divine soul. Both the physical body and the divine soul will explode together. You're so cruel, but I like it, haha. Little Wushuang, thinking about it, it's really exciting to form an alliance with you. Tell me, how are we going to mount a sneak attack? How are we going to arrange the battle tactics? Mi Jia's witch nature was exposed completely all of a sudden. In fact, Qin Wushuang took the words stray dog to heart. However, Mi Jia was even more narrow-minded than Qin Wushuang. Those guys kept calling her bitch, and it had already caused her anger to reach the peak. If it wasn't for the fact that she was not powerful enough, with her personality, she would have gone back to kill them long ago. Qin Wushuang spread out the map. Look, the place where they stopped us should be around here. Now we are in this area. If we want to ambush them, we should choose here and here. These 2 places are the most suitable. Also, you must consider whether they have the ability to grasp your whereabouts. If they grasp your whereabouts, our sneak attack might not be effective. Grasp my whereabouts? Humph, they can't play any tricks at such a far distance. Don't worry. I guarantee that at most, they will only know our escape route, they will definitely not grasp our exact whereabouts. That's good. Look, I will set up an ambush in this area. I will use the graceful spiritual bow to ambush 2 of them. My subordinates will lock onto one target and activate 2 dragon breath seals at the same time. You and Ai Simo will choose one target and deal with that one together. As for the remaining one, I will kill the first 2 and then deal with them. Can you deal with 3 of them by yourself? Mi Jia was somewhat doubtful. Open your eyes and see. Qin Wushuang said lightly. He summoned the swallowing sky lion dragon and the dark mysterious snake. After giving them some instructions, he handed over 2 dragon breath seals. Take these 2 first. It's enough for each of you to use one for this battle. The remaining one for each of you, just in case it's necessary." After he finished speaking, he explained the tactic. On the side, Mijia's eyes shone as she listened. It was unknown whether she was praising him or belittling him. She said with a faint smile, "Little Wushuang, is this how you usually scheme against people?" Qin Wushuang said with a calm expression, "I can't help it, there are too many evil people in this world. Even if I use this method, I can't eliminate all of them. So shameless, but I still like it." Mi Jia was eager to give it a try. "Get ready, I reckon they will catch up with us soon." Qin Wushuang nodded and made a hand gesture. Then, each of them sneaked towards their arranged positions. If you want to know what will happen next, please log on to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 756. It was not because Qin Wushuang was narrow-minded and wanted to seek revenge for a single sentence. Rather, after careful consideration, he felt that this battle could not be avoided. Regardless, since these 5 people had discovered his identity, certainly they would entangle him tightly. Even if he chose to shrink back, there would be no leeway for him to turn back. Instead of letting the enemies entangle him, it would be better to make the first move to gain the upper hand. By killing these 5 people, even if he would offend the 3 dragon clans, at least he could intimidate those guys who were ready to make trouble. To a certain extent, it might not be a bad thing. Qin Wushuang was fed up with the situation of being beaten passively. Ever since he acquired the shooting sun arrows, Qin Wushuang felt that he seemed to have gained some extra decisiveness to kill in terms of temperament. A form of incredibly strong desire to take the initiative to attack stirred up inside his body. Although Mi Jia was nicknamed Sorceress, it was the first time in her entire life that she had made such bold move. Inwardly, she felt somewhat restless and impulsive. However, she felt more of a sense of excitement. With her restless personality, even if she knew that the consequences of killing these 5 people would be severe, she would not consider it too much. Not to mention, those 5 bastards kept calling her slut, and had already touched her reverse scale. Most importantly, Mi Jia found a form of temperament that was even more wild than her own from Qin Wushuang. If it were any of the young disciples of the endless Eastern Sea, most likely they would be the only one who could maintain such calmness and take the initiative to attack when facing 5 Supreme Dao elite warriors. In general, a form of pursuing excitement made Mi Jia look forward to what was about to happen. Here it comes. Qin Wushuang was slightly moved inwardly as he sent his spiritual perception to Mi Jia. Mi Jia understood tacitly and became alert inwardly. When those 5 people chased after them, they were flustered and exasperated. They also kept complaining. "That slut Mi Jia, I don't know if she has taken a fancy to that pretty boy or wants to take the graceful spiritual bow for herself. Regardless, they will not run far. Let's catch up to them and kill them together. If we can get the graceful spiritual bow, why should we be afraid of offending the Horned Dragon clan? Yes, that slut, since she has fallen into my hands, I must have some fun first. Ha ha, you don't say, that little slut's figure is truly amazing. If you want a butt, you have a butt, and if you want a bust, you have a bust." Qin Wushuang snickered in his heart. These guys, even at death's door, they were still lustful. He was getting closer. Qin Wushuang squinted his eyes into a line. He slowly opened the graceful spiritual bow and suddenly urged his aura. The purple cloud yin-yang wings suddenly opened and rushed forward, turning into a meteor-like light. Like a full moon, the graceful spiritual bow was fully opened and emitted a murderous intent with an extremely strong devouring power. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The shooting sun arrows flew out side by side, as accurate as guided missiles. Their speed was so fast that no one could react in time. There was a distance between each of the 5 people. However, once the pressure of the graceful spiritual bow was activated, It covered an extremely wide area and directly covered the opponent's area. Within the attacking range of the graceful spiritual bow, it was filled with the presence of slaughter. The shooting sun arrows were like a charging dragon or a pouncing tiger. His aura was majestic, and his overflowing killing intent seemed to have frozen the entire space. Kill. There was only one thought in Qin Wushuang's mind. In the red mist, the shooting sun arrow's sharpness could not be suppressed and had already arrived. 1 arrow, 2 arrows, 3 arrows, 4 arrows, a total of 4 arrows with clear targets were attacking 2 people. Not good, retreat quickly. Damn it, a sneak attack. Amidst the chaos, these 5 fellows reacted extremely quickly. Their figures flashed and they jumped into the sky. However, the second reaction time could not be compared to the first reaction time. Moreover, after the graceful spiritual bow was bestowed with spirituality, the chasing ability of the shooting sun arrows would not deviate from the path. With a powerful tracking ability, they attacked one after another. It's the graceful spiritual bow. As soon as the miserable screams faded away, the shooting sun arrows had already hit the protective divine light of 2 people. The first arrow broke the protective divine light with just a rush. The second arrow chased after them. 2 consecutive arrows. Boom, boom. The golden light exploded and their bodies shattered into pieces. There was no suspense at all. Before the spiritual energy could escape, it was hit by the shooting sun arrows and was directly blasted into smithereens. Qin Wushuang was overjoyed. Killing 2 people with 4 arrows was actually easier than he had imagined. It was also because these 5 people underestimated the enemy and did not take precautions. Under the sneak attack, it indeed achieved a miraculous effect. Qin Wushuang laughed loudly. With a wave of his hand, he called back the 4 shooting sun arrows. Waving the graceful spiritual bow, he looked at the remaining 3 people with cold eyes. Only then did the 3 people stop their battle formation. Their eyes were somewhat frightened. Under this sudden surprise attack, the 2 fellow Taoists, who were still lively and chatting happily just a moment ago, had turned into ashes at this moment. Even if they were strong warriors of the coagulate supreme Tao, they also felt their blood run cold. Looking at the bow in Qin Wushuang's hand that was full of murderous aura, each of their expressions was very frightened. Graceful spiritual bow, it's really the graceful spiritual bow. Brothers, attack together and kill him. We can't let him have the chance to attack from a distance. The strong warriors of the supreme Tao reacted and shouted one after another. The 3 of them roared at the same time and surrounded from 3 different directions. It was at this moment that a red figure cut across the sky. With a shake of her long whip, she smashed out a red cyclone that distorted the void. It rolled over and directly covered one of them. Bitch, it's you again. That person was fierce-looking. He was the guy who said he wanted to catch me Jia alive and have some fun. Mi Jia said coldly. Didn't you want to have some fun just now? I'll let you have some fun. After she finished speaking, her whip was like a demon that kept lashing over. For a moment, this whip was like a dancing red dragon. It rolled up streaks of red light and intertwined into a ball of attack net, entangling that guy tightly. When the remaining 2 people saw that their companion was trapped by Mi Jia, they signaled with their eyes at the same time and roared, "The 2 of you surround him and kill that guy first." Just as they were talking, the expression of the guy with green scales changed. He looked at the side of his companion with frightened eyes and shouted, "Old 5, be careful behind you!" That companion was shocked and had yet to react to what was going on. Suddenly, there was a burst of light behind his back. 2 powerful dragon breaths gushed over like waves. As soon as these 2 dragon breaths were released, it was like a flood that broke through the dam. It was like a ferocious beast that had just escaped from the cage. Like a Rujiamo, it sandwiched this person in the middle directly from both sides. Dragon breath seal. The expression of the guy with green scales changed greatly and he roared, "Quickly use the dragon breath seal to resist." By the time they reacted and activated the dragon breath seal, it was obviously too late. These two dragon breath seals were incomparably overbearing and pressed over directly. The two rays of light collided with each other directly at a speed that could not be observed by the naked eye. That strong warrior of the supreme Tao was directly engulfed by the two dragon breath seals. It was like two walls suddenly collided together. Under the perfect fusion, that strong warrior of the supreme Tao was directly sandwiched into a meat patty. The divine soul let out a miserable cry and roared, "Third brother, quickly run!" His companion's miserable cry before his death made the guy with green scales come to a realization. He stomped his foot and completely ignored his companion who was entangled by Mi Jia. He transformed into a burst of green light and shot towards the 10,000 miles of the blue dome of heaven. All of a sudden, in the direction he was escaping, a claw extended across the sky. With a horizontal pull, 5 miserable sharp lights clawed at his face with a burst of cold presence. "Get lost!" The green-scaled guy opened his eyes wide and saw a chubby dragon beast that seemed to have just been born. It was staring at him with a pair of watery eyes. "Ai Simo, beautifully done!" Qin Wushuang rushed over with a whistle and roared with laughter. His tone carried a form of judgment. "Sir, you want the graceful spiritual bow, right?" When that guy with green scales saw that his way was blocked and Qin Wushuang was chasing after him again, his expression turned cold as he fixed his voice and said, "Kid, if you dare to kill me, I promise you will not walk out of this endless eastern sea." Qin Wushuang gave a light sigh and said leisurely, "I remember that similar words were spoken by someone at the Illusion Heavenly Lake and also at the Xian Yuan Mound. In the end, without exception, I killed all those people. Do you think that your threat will have more tricks than theirs?" That guy with green scales breathed rapidly and his pupils shrunk rapidly. "Kid, the power of my crocodile dragon clan is not something you can imagine." "What about it?" "I already reminded you to not ask about my identity. If you do, someone will die. You did not listen to my good words and now you are seeking your own death. Who can you blame?" That guy with green scales revealed a bewildered expression. Yet, his palm under his sleeve was making subtle movements. Suddenly, Ai Simo said with a childish voice, "Daddy, his hand is moving." Qin Wushuang laughed. "Don't worry, if he wants to activate the dragon breath seal, I promise that his speed is not as fast as my arrow." The expression of the guy with green scales changed drastically as he glared at Qin Wushuang. He asked with a hoarse voice, "Tell me, what will make you let me live? Do you want treasures or something else? Just tell me. I can promise that I will not look into what happened today. The Crocodile Dragon clan will not look into it either." On the side, Mi Jia cried out, "Kid Wushuang, don't believe his nonsense." Qin Wushuang said with a light smile, "For the matter of guarantee, I feel that the guarantee of a dead person is the most reliable. The graceful spiritual bow is right here, how about you take it? Or else, you will die under the graceful spiritual bow. Make your own choice. Kid, go to hell." An ominous glint appeared in the eyes of the guy with green scales. He raised his sleeve and suddenly swung it. A seal spurted out. Qin Wushuang laughed. "Good move." He activated the divine light and 3 shooting sun arrows were shot together. With unparalleled momentum, they charged towards the dragon breath spurted out by the seal. This was a head-on confrontation. At this moment, Qin Wushuang was incredibly confident. He wanted to use the graceful spiritual bow to confront the other party's seal. When enemies meet on a narrow path, the brave one wins. The shooting sun arrows were like an indestructible sharp weapon. Without waiting for the seal to be completely opened, they arrived first and destroyed the seal with a loud bang. When the guy with green scales saw this situation, his face turned ashen. His brain drilled and he fled underground. Qin Wushuang's eyes revealed a look of disdain. He activated the purple cloud in yang wings and hung the graceful spiritual bow. Moving his 5 fingers, bursts of sword chi gushed out from his hand. The colorful sword chi pierced through the distance of the void. Like continuous bullets, it continuously hit the back of the guy with green scales. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 757. That guy was indeed impressive. The cyan scales all over his body emitted a dazzling light, and actually blocked all of the sword chi. After all, Qin Wuxuang had not entered the Supreme Dao stage. Although the coagulated sword was also a powerful technique, without the support of the power of the Supreme Dao stage, it was obviously quite troublesome to break this tyrannical scale armor. Qin Wuxuang's continuous attacks instead made the man in green scales excited. He roared, "Qin Wuxuang, without the graceful spiritual bow, you are just trash. If you have the guts, put down the graceful spiritual bow and fight with me." Qin Wuxuang smiled leisurely and said indifferently, "As you wish." After hanging the graceful spiritual bow, he grabbed the Fury Dragon's soul that he hadn't used for a long time. As soon as this weapon was revealed, the complexion of the man in green scales changed greatly. His eyes emitted jealousy and anger. "Boy, you are actually using this kind of weapon?" Qin Wuxuang was startled and then suddenly woke up. What a coincidence! This man was an elite of the Flood Dragon clan, and the Fury Dragon's soul that he was using was said to be refined from the tendons of a Flood Dragon. It was no wonder that this guy suddenly became frantic. Qin Wuxuang shook the whip and activated the divine power in his body. With a casual sweep, a huge whirlpool formed and rolled towards the man. That man revealed a hideous smile and thought, "After all, this boy is still inexperienced. He was provoked by my words and put down the graceful spiritual bow to fight with me. He is courting death. Without the graceful spiritual bow, what can he use to fight with me? Wait for me to launch a thunderous attack and kill him. After seizing the graceful spiritual bow, I will conveniently shoot that blockhead and that bitch Mi Jia to death together. I will take the graceful spiritual bow for myself. This is my big plan." Thinking of this, the man laughed heartily. "Good boy, let me see how monstrous you are." After he finished speaking, his body swayed and the shape of a flood dragon immediately transformed. It spat out clouds and swayed in the air as it charged towards Qin Wuxuang aggressively. With a swipe of its claws and fangs, it tried to grab Qin Wuxuang's whip. Qin Wuxuang seized the opportunity to entangle. Instead of retreating, he rolled towards the ferocious claws. The man was overjoyed. This brat is courting his own death. He is a cultivator below the Supreme Dao stage. How can this Fury Jiao whip restrain me? Thinking of this, he let out a long howl. His claws and teeth glowed with a green light as he grabbed at the whip. Qin Wuxuang did not use the graceful spiritual bow, not because he was arrogant. Just like when he fought against Mi Jia previously, he merely wanted to borrow this fellow's strength to train his actual combat strength and experience the feeling of fighting in close combat with a Supreme Dao elite warrior. When Mi Jia saw that Qin Wuxuang had abandoned the graceful spiritual bow and was actually engaging in hand-to-hand combat with the other party, she was both angry and anxious. However, she was entangled by that fierce-looking guy, and at most, the battle would end in a draw. Fortunately, Ai Simo was watching from the side. In addition, the 2 spirit beasts at the peak of the common mysterious stage were also guarding the side. These 2 spirit beasts each had a sealed dragon breath, so they were not worried that the enemy would escape. That green scale armor of the Flood Dragon was indeed powerful. After being swept by Qin Wuxuang's Fury Jiao soul, a green light flashed and it was unscathed. That Flood Dragon laughed loudly. "How can you hurt me when you attack me with your Flood Dragon whip?" With a twist of his wrist, he directly coiled the Fury Jiao soul. He urged the dragon breath all over his body, and it gushed out along the Fury Jiao soul. A strong green light spread out and attacked like lightning. Qin Wushuang acted as if he did not feel it at all. He pretended to pull with his hand, and his expression changed slightly. That flood dragon grinned hideously. "Brat, do you still think you can escape?" He urged the dragon breath again and again, spreading it along the Fury Jiao soul. Qin Wushuang revealed a trace of a strange smile. "When did I say I was going to escape?" As soon as his voice fell, he urged the power of Deep North and opened his dantian. The attacks that were like electric currents continuously converged. He used the power of Deep North to absorb the dragon breath and sent it into Qin Wushuang's dantian continuously. Seeing Qin Wushuang absorb the dragon breath, the flood dragon laughed loudly. "Brat, are you tired of living? Since you like it, then go die." As he spoke, he urged the dragon breath to rush at Qin Wushuang at an even faster speed. "You dare to swallow my dragon breath? Haha, then I'll crush your dantian. Despicable human, die." The veins on the flood dragon's forehead bulged, and his face was extremely ferocious. Qin Wushuang's dantian was not something that the flood dragon could imagine. The better the flood dragon urged, the more he felt refreshed. The flood dragon urged a dozen times and faintly sensed that something was wrong. Looking at Qin Wushuang again, he was expressionless, like a calm sea, unable to see the depth at all. Although his dragon breath was like a river flowing into the sea, his opponent's dantian was like a bottomless pit. No matter how they urged, they could not see the bottom at all. How is this possible? The flood dragon began to be a little surprised and secretly suspicious. Is this guy's dantian a bottomless pit? Why does it seem like it can't be filled? Vividly, Qin Wushuang's carefree appearance made the crocodile dragon feel a wave of uneasiness. No, this kid must be scheming against me. When the flood dragon thought of this, he swung his tail and was about to retreat. Just as he was about to leave, the flood dragon's heart suddenly sank, because he found that the other party's whip seemed to have a special magic power, holding him tightly. Did I see a ghost? The flood dragon was scared out of his wits. He found that he did not use his dragon breath at all, but the dragon breath in his body was still leaking out, as if it was being pulled out by someone. Seeing the flood dragon like this, Qin Wushuang knew that the other party had already noticed. Naturally, he took advantage of the opportunity to pursue. He continued to urge the Dark North technique, and a powerful suction force, as if devouring the world, firmly held the flood dragon. Only then did the flood dragon realize that something was wrong. He roared wildly, and the scales all over his body stood up. He roared, "Kid, what kind of demonic technique are you using?" Qin Wushuang turned a deaf ear. No matter how the flood dragon struggled, he had the purple cloud yin-yang wings on his body. He swayed with the flood dragon in the air, but he did not let go. The flood dragon struggled in the air, swinging its tail, trying to attack Qin Wushuang and make him give up. How could Qin Wushuang be hit by its tail? With the other hand, he manipulated the heavenly vein condensed sword and continuously shot it. In the beginning, the sword chi of the heavenly vein condensed sword could not hurt the flood dragon. But at this moment, the flood dragon was obviously a little weak after consuming so much energy. Under the attack of the magnificent sword chi, it began to gradually lose its strength. The defensive power of the scale armor was clearly decreasing. The strength of the dragon clan lay in their dragon breath. This dragon breath was equivalent to the power of the supreme Tao of the dragon clan. As the dragon breath continued to weaken, whether it was the attack power or the defense power, naturally would be greatly reduced. "Kid, you will regret it. You will definitely regret it." The flood dragon used all kinds of methods, but it was still like a kite, tightly held by Qin Wushuang. Gradually, it began to lose its strength, and only a weak threat was left. Qin Wushuang was not merciful at all. The Dark North technique's momentum flourished, and the flood dragon's dragon breath was completely absorbed. The flood dragon was sucked dry, and there was no way for its divine soul to escape from its body. Qin Wushuang swung the furious flood dragon soul. Swallowing Sky, I'll leave it to you. When the Swallowing Sky Lion Dragon saw the body of the Supreme Tao Flood Dragon, it was naturally overjoyed. It soared into the sky, opened its bloody mouth, and directly swallowed it. It started to chew with big mouthfuls. After the flood dragon's dragon breath was sucked dry, its body and divine soul were chewed into pieces by the Swallowing Sky Lion Dragon and swallowed into its stomach. The Swallowing Sky Lion Dragon was greatly satisfied. With a wild roar, the strength of its entire body was even more abundant. If it was not for the seal, perhaps this great nourishment would be enough to help it directly break through to the Supreme Tao stage. Qin Wushuang activated the purple cloud in Yang wings and leisurely came to the area where Mi Jia was fighting. He smiled leisurely. "Miss Mi Jia, do you need help?" When Mi Jia saw Qin Wushuang settle the flood dragon without using the graceful spiritual bow, she was also somewhat surprised. Then, she recalled the situation when they were fighting and knew that Qin Wushuang was full of strangeness from head to toe. Hence, she was not surprised. She whistled softly. "If you don't help, I can't guarantee that I won't let him go." Qin Wushuang did not know what to do with this woman. He took out the graceful spiritual bow and said with a smile, "If I remember correctly, this guy seemed to say that he wanted to do something to you just now?" Mi Jia did not mind and said with a smile, "This guy is lecherous and the most hateful. Don't shoot him to death first. I want to castrate him." In any case, that guy was also a Supreme Tao elite warrior. In his own domain, he had always been domineering. When had he ever been in such a difficult situation? Now, he was like an ant. His life and death seemed to be decided by someone else's mouth. How could he not be angry? He roared repeatedly, "Bitch, you betrayed the dragon clan. I will swallow you." After he finished speaking, his body swayed and actually turned into a flood dragon. Its body was extremely huge, and it swallowed Mi Jia directly. Qin Wushuang narrowed his eyes and stared at this flood dragon. He activated the graceful spiritual bow again and shouted in a low voice, "Go!" The shooting sun arrow was like a devil from hell as it shot directly toward the head of the flood dragon. Swoosh! The shooting sun arrow directly hit the eye of the flood dragon. It entered from the left and exited from the right. Mi Jia was overjoyed. She twirled the whip in her hand and wrapped the flood dragon's body like a dumpling. She kept rolling it up and muttered, "Great cutting skill." Immediately, hundreds of dagger-like blades overflowed from the top of the whip and started to cut the flood dragon's body continuously. For a moment, flesh and blood flew everywhere. The flood dragon's body seemed to have been eaten by insects and ants. In a short while, only the skin was left outside. When Qin Wushuang saw this bloody scene, he was also slightly stunned. This Mi Jia's method was not like a girl at all. She was clearly like a cruel devil. When Mi Jia saw Qin Wushuang's stupefied look, she smiled proudly and held the skin in her hand. She raised her willowy eyebrows and the corner of her mouth rose. The scales of this flood dragon are the toughest and the thickest among the 9 true dragon clans. If this skin is used to make armor, it can definitely be refined into a Supreme Tao armor. Qin Wushuang suddenly understood where Mi Jia's method came from. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 758. Mi Jia did not hold back as she put away the horned dragon's skin into the ring. Acting first and reporting later, she chuckled. "This is mine. You don't have any objections, right?" Qin Wushuang spread out his hands. "Just take it." Mi Jia gave a long sigh. "Unfortunately, your graceful spiritual bow is too powerful. If we could capture their divine soul dragon pellet, it would be a great harvest. Qin Wushuang rolled his eyes. Don't be too greedy. For this battle, if we didn't use the appropriate sneak attack tactic and let them take the initiative, most of us would have lost our lives. Under such circumstances, you still want the divine soul dragon pellet. Ha ha, this is called giving them an inch and asking for a mile. Who asked them to provoke me? After experiencing a massacre, Mi Jiao was in a great mood. She appeared to regard herself as a meritorious subject. Qin Wushuang took a look at the battlefield and there was nothing to clean up. They were either completely annihilated, swallowed cleanly, or skinned. There were no remains left at the scene. As for the battle scene, it was a complete mess. Clearly, it could not be restored. There was no need to restore it. At the endless Eastern Sea, killings happened all the time. Perhaps the death of these 5 people would be counted on Qin Wushuang's head, or perhaps it would not be counted on him. Qin Wushuang was already aware of it and did not mind it. Killing and killing, if one did not die, one would die. Since Qin Wushuang chose to make a move, he was prepared to deal with everything. He could not just sit and wait for death. Anyways, there was still the eldest miss of the Horned Dragon clan to take care of it. Mi Jia was in a great mood as she said with an unsatisfied tone, I feel that I haven't had enough. How good would it be if another group comes? Qin Wushuang was directly speechless. I say, Miss Mi Jia, this is a life and death battle, not a child's play. You are a battle maniac, go ahead and find someone to fight. I don't have the time and energy to accompany you. Mi Jia chuckled. Look, you have less guts than a woman. I am not afraid. What are you afraid of? Qin Wushuang snappily asked. Do you want the scarlet fire or not? If you don't want to go, then let's part ways and go our separate ways. Of course, why wouldn't I? I said that we just work together, so we should have a pleasant cooperation. Why are you so angry? You're a big man, can't you have some magnanimity? Mi Jia said in a lecturing tone. Qin Wushuang rolled his eyes and said, Talking about magnanimity with you would be torturing myself. Stop talking nonsense, let's go. Mi Jia was helpless. She could only follow Qin Wushuang and quickly left the scene. Along the way, Mi Jia followed Qin Wushuang and kept a low profile. There were no more incidents. Along the way, the news of the death of those 5 Supreme Tao elite warriors gradually spread across the endless Eastern Sea day after day. For the time being, it was as if a giant tsunami had been triggered at the endless Eastern Sea. To the endless Eastern Sea, the strange death of 5 Supreme Tao elite warriors was definitely a major nightmare. Although there were many Supreme Tao elite warriors at the endless Eastern Sea, when 5 of them died at once and it was rumored that these 5 were in a group, it triggered even more panic and speculation. When Qin Wushuang heard the discussions along the way, his mood was as calm as water. It was as if this matter was completely unrelated to him. On the other hand, Mi Jia was in a great mood. If she didn't consider the sensitive nature of her identity, she would have wanted to reveal herself and announce that she had killed those 5 people. It was as if she had made a great contribution, yet she could not publicize it. She could only be a nameless hero behind the scenes. It was incredibly depressing, especially to a sorceress like Mi Jia who was somewhat vain. Holding back these secrets was even more unbearable than being pregnant for 10 months. If Qin Wushuang had not threatened her with benefits, most likely this sorceress would have taken it all on herself. Of course, along the way there were also many speculations. There were many different versions of the death of those 5 people. What made Qin Wushuang feel somewhat reassured was that among the many versions, although there were some speculations as to whether it was related to the owner of the graceful spiritual bow, it was not the mainstream voice. After all, everyone did not think that a disciple of the Qin clan who had fled to the endless Eastern Sea after being chased by the Heavenly Emperor Gate would have the power to kill 5 Supreme Tao elite warriors. Because of this asymmetry in power, the outside world did not point their suspicion at Qin Wushuang. What made Qin Wushuang rejoice was that although those 5 people had found out through various sources that Qin Wushuang and Mi Jia were in the same group, clearly they did not have accurate information to prove this point. In other words, the outside world did not know that those 5 people had already found him and Mi Jia. Mi Jia appeared somewhat depressed as she said with an indignant tone, "They are truly intolerable bullies. The information of these people is too trashy, right?" She had a reason to feel depressed. She was involved in the entire matter. However, these doubtful public opinions, and even her name as Miss Mi Jia, had never appeared at all. It was no wonder that the public opinion did not point at her. After all, with her strength, she had just entered the Supreme Tao stage. Some people did not even know that she had entered the Supreme Tao stage. One might ask, how could a young disciple that had just entered the Supreme Tao stage kill 5 coagulate Supreme Tao elite warriors from the 3 dragon clans? Therefore, in the public opinion, Mi Jia did not even count as a suspect. On the contrary, the biggest suspect was that groundless golden crow. The mainstream rumor was that those 5 people were unlucky and encountered the resurrected golden crow. They were killed by the golden crow directly. Although this statement was somewhat unreliable and did not have enough evidence, it had become the mainstream. It was apparent how much influence the rumor of the Golden Crow had caused to the current endless Eastern Sea. In comparison, the appearance of Qin Wushuang and the graceful spiritual bow had been weakened at the endless Eastern Sea. To Qin Wushuang this was a great thing. Along the way, Qin Wushuang heard many rumors. He also learned that almost everyone at the endless Eastern Sea was discussing the matter of the Golden Crow. On the contrary, the topic of Qin Wushuang and the graceful spiritual bow could only be the third topic. As for the second topic, of course it was about the strange disappearance of the 5 Supreme Tao elite warriors. At a certain area of the endless Eastern Sea, Xian Tianwu and Lei Yu, these 2 elite warriors of the transformation Supreme Tao stage from the Heavenly Emperor 8 Gates were also somewhat at a loss. The vastness of the endless Eastern Sea almost caused them to get lost here. Although the Heavenly Emperor Gate more or less had some intelligence network at the endless Eastern Sea, they were not local people. Although they had some clues, they could not find Qin Wushuang in the end. Xian Tianwu was in an incredibly terrible mood as she swore angrily, "This unfilial son of the Qin clan can run away at the endless Eastern Sea? I refuse to believe that he can fly to the sky." Naturally, Lei Yu was calmer than Xian Tianwu. That son of the Qin clan is on good terms with the Coiled Dragon clan. According to the intelligence, the secular family and colleagues of the son of the Qin clan all went to seek refuge at the royal mansion of the Coiled Dragon clan. Across the boundless endless Eastern Sea, it's difficult to find the son of the Qin clan. However, it's easy to find the Coiled Dragon royal mansion. When Xian Tianwu heard Lei Yu's tone, she could not but help to ask, "Lei Yu, you mean, could it be we are going to kill our way to that Coiled Dragon royal mansion?" To kill our way to the Coiled Dragon royal mansion, I am afraid it's not enough for you and me. However, since the relatives and colleagues of that son of the Qin clan are hiding at the mansion, I don't believe they will not take a step out. The 2 of us can stand guard in the vicinity and seize the opportunity to sneak into the Coiling Dragon manor. As long as we can capture 1 or 2 important figures, I don't believe that son of the Qin clan will not show himself. That kid is always protective of his own people and cares about his family and colleagues. Xian Tianwu's expression also showed some agreement as she nodded with a resentful tone. "We will do as you say." That kid's closest relatives were his father, his sister, and his nephew. For the Stargaze Palace, there seems to be a teacher and a group of colleagues. If we can capture his father, sister, or his teacher, these 3 people will certainly be the most important. Yes, these 3 can be listed as the top hunting targets. In the worst case, we can capture a few of his colleagues. As long as we use provocation, I don't believe he will not come out. Yes, without further ado, let's go to the coiled dragon royal mansion. Rather than searching for a needle in a haystack, it's better to wait for the rabbit by a stump. Even if we cannot capture that kid's family and colleagues, that kid will eventually return to the coiled dragon royal mansion. If we cannot wait for him for a year, I don't believe he will not return in 3 or 5 years, Exhilarating said viciously. Yes, anyways there are 15 years until the Heavenly Emperor election. In these 15 years, could it be he will let his family stay at the coiled dragon royal mansion and not ask about them? That's right, that's the case, let's go. After the 2 transformation Supreme Tao elite warriors finished their discussion, they also flew towards the direction of the coiled dragon royal mansion. Qin Wushuang, who was a few million miles away, was completely unaware of Xian Tianwu and Lei Yu's scheme. Along with Mi Jia, he took Ai Simo to head east. They were getting closer to the eastern polar region. The closer they got to the eastern polar region, the higher the frequency of elite warriors of the Dragon clan appearing. Clearly, for the rumors of the rushing current valley, some of the elite warriors of the Dragon clan wanted to get to the bottom of it. Of course, the true elite warriors of the Dragon clan were all gathered at the first-rate Dragon Palace. The elite warriors that appeared here were all newborn calves like Mi Jia. They were both ambitious and passionate. The rushing current valley was the burial place of the Golden Crow. It was rumored that treasures were everywhere. It was especially suitable for training. Training for 1 day at the rushing current valley was equivalent to training for a month in the outside world. Because of this, talented young men from all over the place kept gathering when they heard the news. Among them, there was no lack of elite warriors from other forbidden spiritual zones. Clearly, these people had come for Qin Wushuang. Only, since they could not investigate Qin Wushuang's whereabouts, they could only join in the fun and try to bump into Qin Wushuang at the eastern polar region. Of course, Qin Wushuang would not kill anyone he saw. Currently, there were more and more elite warriors. Even if he were to make a move, he must be cautious and never let down his guard. Once he did not control it well, most likely he would ignite a barrel of gunpowder. The situation would most likely go out of control and cause him to fall into a heavy siege. To anyone, the graceful spiritual bow was definitely full of temptation. On this day, Qin Wushuang and that Mi Jia arrived at the Seven Murder Gulf. Inside the endless Eastern Sea, this Seven Murder Gulf could be said to be a rather bloody territory with a heavy murderous presence. It was a territory governed by the Jackal Wolf clan, one of the non-9 dragon clans. Similar to the Swan and Eye clan, this Jackal Wolf clan was a powerful clan among the non-9 dragon clans. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please log on to www.chidian.com. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 759. The information showed that the Jackal Wolf was one of the 9 sons of the dragon. It had the body of a dragon and the head of a jackal. It had an unyielding personality and loved to fight. It was always holding the sword in its mouth and glaring at its enemy with its glaring eyes. It was engraved on the blade ring and sword hilt to increase its power. As the saying goes, a meal of kindness must be repaid and a grievance must be avenged. The Jackal Wolf had become the embodiment of all evil. The Jackal Wolf clan had an extremely courageous personality and were incredibly bloodthirsty. At the endless Eastern Sea, ordinary dragon martial artists would avoid the martial artists of the Jackal Wolf clan. It was because once they provoked the martial artists of the Jackal Wolf clan, most likely they would face endless pursuit from a group of Jackal Wolf martial artists. The Jackal Wolf clan held grudges and were persistent. To their enemies, they would definitely put them to death. They would never allow their enemies to live freely in the world. Therefore, under normal circumstances, unless it was the totem of the forefather dragon clan, the other dragon clans of the endless Eastern Sea would restrain their fear to the Jackal Wolf clan. Although they were not afraid, at least they were restraining their fear. After entering the Jackal-Wolf Dragon City, Sorceress Mi Jia also restrained herself. This was unexpected to Qin Wushuang. It seemed that evil people would be dealt with by evil people. With the reputation of the Jackal-Wolf clan, even Sorceress Mi Jia restrained her fear. When he arrived at the Seven Murder Gulf, he was only about 1,000,000 miles away from the rushing Current Valley. Qin Wushuang planned to rest and reorganize at the area of the Seven Murder Gulf. Last time, after absorbing the dragon breath of the Crocodile Dragon clan, to Qin Wushuang, it was greatly beneficial. Initially, Qin Wushuang was worried that his Dantian would not be compatible with the dragon breath. In the end, he realized that he was overthinking. After the dragon breath entered his Dantian, not only was it compatible, it also transformed his Dantian and was extremely nourishing. This time, Qin Wushuang was no longer surprised. He knew that everything was bestowed by the immemorial phantom dragon bloodline baptism at the Coiling Dragon Palace Hall of the Floating Snow House at the Black Dead Sea. It caused Qin Wushuang's body to merge with the phantom dragon bloodline. Last time in the abyss, Qin Wushuang's arms had shown signs of dragon scales. Now, after absorbing the dragon breath of the Flood Dragon clan, Qin Wushuang's physical body showed signs of transforming again. The physical body of a dragon was at least twice as strong as that of a human cultivator. Moreover, the demon dragon bloodline made Qin Wushuang feel like he was gradually transforming into a dragon. Qin Wushuang knew that as the bloodline continued to fuse, sooner or later, he would be able to transform between a human and a dragon dharma body at will, just like the dragons. Qin Wushuang was very curious now. Just how powerful was the demon dragon of the Coiling Dragon Palace Hall? After going through the baptism of the demonic dragon bloodline, he could actually absorb the dragon breath of the Flood Dragon clan without any pressure, and his Dantian did not have any abnormal reaction at all. After that battle, Qin Wushuang could at least prove that his Dantian realm was more powerful than the divine beast Jiao Dragon. Otherwise, when the dragon breath gushed in, it would be strange if it did not explode his Dantian. Mi Jia was depressed all the way to the Yazi Dragon City. As the wind gradually calmed down, she also gradually relaxed her vigilance. After entering the Yazi Dragon City, Mi Jia complained, "Now we can finally find a better place to sit down, right? I am so depressed that I am about to die. I heard that the wine of the Yazi Dragon clan is excellent. Are you interested in drinking a few cups?" "Drinking a few cups is not a problem. I am just afraid that you can't control your mouth when you go crazy." Mi Jia snorted and said, "Are you looking down on me?" "Wrong. It's not that I am looking down on you. It's just that I don't even need to look at you to know that you can't control your mouth," Qin Wushuang said coldly. Mi Jia was different from her usual self. Not only was she not angry, but she said with a smile, all right. Tell me what to do. I will listen to you, okay?" As she said, she actually intimately tugged at Qin Wushuang's arm and shook it twice like a spoiled child. When Qin Wushuang saw Mi Jia's abnormal behavior, his first thought was that there must be a trick. He subconsciously pulled his arm out and said with a look of not daring to ask for advice, "Don't try to get close to me. I can't stand you." Mi Jia laughed out loud and shook her body. Her proud figure leaned to one side and naturally leaned on Qin Wushuang's shoulder like a little bird. "Rascal, do I have long thorns on my body?" As she said this, she also laughed. Her eyes, however, intentionally or unintentionally, glanced toward the front. Qin Wushuang had been observing Mi Jia's every move. When he saw that her eyes were a little restless, his heart thumped and he hurriedly looked toward the front. Sure enough, the opposite was a young man from the Dragon clan with fluttering clothes. He had a jade-like face and a golden crown on his head. He wore a dragon robe and a pair of golden boots. A purple jade belt was tied around his waist. He was dressed like an elegant young master, and there were a few attendants following behind him. On the surface, Mi Jia was leaning on Qin Wushuang's shoulder. However, she was secretly tugging at Qin Wushuang's arm tightly. She transmitted her voice fiercely, "Little Wushuang, if you don't give me face, I will shout that you raped me." Once this crazy woman went crazy, Qin Wushuang really couldn't stand it. He didn't know what tricks she was going to play. He only transmitted his voice, "If you want your Horned Dragon clan to get into trouble, then talk nonsense." Mi Jia smiled sweetly and glanced at him with her gentle eyes. The corners of her mouth were slightly filled with endless flirtatiousness, as if she was angry yet not angry. If it wasn't for Qin Wushuang's firm mind, he would have been tempted by her seductive behavior. However, at this moment, Qin Wushuang's heart was as still as water. He was like an old monk in meditation. He actually turned a blind eye to Mi Jia's seductive behavior. Mi Jia muttered discontentedly in her throat, "What a block of wood. He thinks I'm throwing flirtatious glances at a blind person." When she raised her head and saw the young master from the Dragon Clan walking over, Mi Jia was furious. That young master from the Dragon Clan waved his paper fan and strolled over. With an extremely surprised tone, he said, "Miss Mi Jia, I said that when I came here today, there was a pleasant feeling that came spontaneously. It turns out that I'm very lucky to have met Miss Mi Jia today. It's really a pleasure to meet you. It's been 3 to 4 years since we parted, right? I didn't expect Miss Mi Jia's elegance to be even better than before." Mi Jia looked at that young master with a faint smile. With a taunting tone, she asked, "Where are your bad company?" That young master who called himself chuckled and said, "Those guys don't do proper work. I have already severed ties with them." "Is that so? In that case, young Master are you really going to turn over a new leaf?" "That's right." That young Master said with a serious face, "My biggest wish now is to marry a noble lady who is worthy of my Paleo clan." "Miss Mi Jia." "Stop. Next, are you going to say that Miss Mi Jia is a peerless beauty with a face that can captivate the birds and beasts, a beauty that outshines the moon and puts the flowers to shame? My admiration for Miss Mi Jia is like the water of the East Sea, endless." That young Master Yi's face showed some embarrassment. "Miss Mi Jia, those are embarrassing matters of the past. Really, I'm turning over a new leaf now. I haven't been involved in romance for many years. My thoughts." "Huh." Mi Jia revealed a strange smile. "You can't be saying that you want to pursue me, right?" That young Master said with a smile, "Miss Mi Jia is indeed exceptionally smart. I'm afraid that my long-cherished wish has never been hidden from your eyes, right?" Qin Wushuang held back his laughter. He probably already knew what was going on. He gently swept away Mi Jia's arm and teased, "Miss Mi Jia, your pursuer is here. I won't disturb you two from catching up." After saying that, he walked forward leisurely. Mi Jia smiled leisurely. "Stinky guy, are you jealous? I have nothing to do with him at all." That young master heard Mi Jia's coquettish tone and his pair of beautiful eyes staring at that man. He couldn't help but feel a little strange. "Miss Mi Jia, who is this person?" This young master wasn't an idiot. He was also a young talent from the non-9 dragon clans. He had good eyesight and had long seen that Qin Wushuang shouldn't be a disciple of the 18 dragon clans. "He's my future husband. Unfortunately, I didn't choose him. It's an arranged marriage from the older generation. Boo-hoo, I'm so pitiful. I can't decide my marriage. Boo-hoo, boo-hoo." When Mi Jia mentioned the pitiful part, she actually covered her face and pretended to cry. Qin Wushuang was completely speechless. This demoness really knew how to act. Unexpectedly, when that young master heard this, a feeling of tender affection for the fairer sex arose spontaneously. The desire to act as a flower protector suddenly overflowed. What era is this? Is there such an old-fashioned thing as arranging a marriage before birth? Isn't this depriving young people of their lifelong happiness? Young Master Yi said with righteous indignation. The way he looked at Qin Wushuang suddenly changed. It was as if he was looking at an old landlord who oppressed his serfs. It was filled with class hatred. It must be this guy who's pestering you, right? Young Master Yi's eyes were red. Mi Jia secretly laughed in her heart. She had been annoyed with this young Master Yi for not a day or two. She was in a sullen mood. This guy came knocking on her door insensibly. It would be strange if Mi Jia didn't tease him. Yes, he wants to force me to get married. I'd rather die than comply. When young Master Yi heard this, his heart was about to break. He was furious. He rolled up his sleeves and no longer cared about the image of a graceful young master. How can this be? Is there still such a thing as forced marriage in this era? Kid, stop right there. If you don't explain yourself today, don't think about leaving. Mi Jia pretended to persuade. Young Master Yi, don't be like this. You can't beat him alone. Now that you've cut off contact with your friends, you don't have any helpers. Young Master Yi grinned. He pouted his lips and blew a whistle. Suddenly, several young men dressed in different clothes rushed out from all directions. Without exception, they all had the words, "Hedonistic son of a wealthy family," written on their faces. Mi Jia stuttered, Didn't you say that you've cut off contact with them? Young Master Yi chuckled and said, Miss Mi Jia, I've cut off contact with them but they refuse to comply. I'm a soft-hearted person and was afraid that they would seek death. Therefore, I kept them by my side to observe. Based on their performance, I'll decide whether to cut off contact completely. So that's the case. Then you guys should persuade him not to fight. When Mi Jia said this, she almost couldn't hold back her laughter. This bunch of hedonistic sons of rich parents were still so easy to tease. With just a few words they had lost their sense of direction. Kid, brother Yi asked you to stop. Did you not bring your ears? If you don't stop, don't blame us for being impolite to you. Qin Wushuang glanced at this group of people helplessly. He then looked at Mi Jia, who was gloating at his misfortune. He thought to himself that this crazy witch was definitely going to flare up since she hadn't come looking for trouble during this period of time. He looked at these people coldly and waved his hand. He pointed to his head and said, If you guys brought your brains, you wouldn't have been deceived by a woman with big breasts but no brains. Big breasts but no brains? Who are you talking about? Those hedonistic sons of rich parents scolded one after another. Who do you think I am talking about? Qin Wushuang glanced at Mi Jia. Mi Jia didn't mind. Instead, she raised the corner of her mouth in a gloating manner. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 760. Obviously, this was not the first time Qin Wushuang had encountered such a boring scene in his previous life. However, it was somewhat different this time. In the past, if there were beauties around, those foppish young masters would be like flies smelling rotten eggs. The beauties themselves would be disdainful and avoid such foppish young masters like the plague. However, this Mi Jia wanted to stir up trouble and took the initiative to provoke the other party. This made the situation even more ridiculous. Looking at young Master Yi, who was overflowing with a sense of justice, Qin Wushuang felt rather helpless. Glancing at Mi Jia, Qin Wushuang said indifferently, If they like to cause trouble, you can accompany them here. I won't accompany you. After saying that, his feet tapped the ground. Immortal Ascending Cloud Steps was activated. With a flash of his shadow, countless afterimages appeared, swaying left and right like a lotus leaf in the wind. In the blink of an eye, he was 1,000 feet away. Mi Jia stomped her foot and glared at young Master Yi. She snorted and said, Humph, with such little ability, you want to fight for justice? Young Master Yi's face turned red. He made a hand gesture and those scoundrels immediately swarmed forward, pressing towards Qin Wushuang like meteors. Stop right there! Take this boy! A total of 4 attacks came from all directions. After images attacked continuously, Qin Wushuang revealed a faint smile at the corner of his mouth. His footsteps remained the same. His sleeves shook lightly and with a very subtle movement, he casually guided the 4 attacks. The 4 attacks overflowing with brilliance immediately condensed into a ball and exploded, rebounding in all directions. Stellar transposition. Qin Wushuang swung his sleeves in a natural and unrestrained manner, as if he had not made a move at all. The next moment, the 4 guys who besieged him let out a cry of pain almost at the same time. Bang! 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 Like a wooden stake being chopped by an axe, they fell down like a kite with a broken string. Their noses and faces were bruised and swollen. Qin Wushuang's stellar transposition was a top martial art in his previous life. In this life, as Qin Wushuang's cultivation continued to improve, the concept of this martial art also continued to improve. In close combat, this technique often had the effect of catching the enemy off guard. Initially, these 4 guys that had launched a sneak attack on Qin Wushuang also possessed extraordinary strength. Although they were only that young Master Yi's group of rogues, they were all super playboys of their respective parties. At least, they had the strength of the perfect void martial stage. The 2 strongest ones were only at the grotto profound realm. However, in front of Qin Wushuang, these 4 people were like children who had just learned martial art. They could not withstand a single blow. He didn't even know what was going on before he fell into Qin Wushuang's trap. One by one, they crawled up with bruises all over their faces. When one of them saw the wound on his arm, he glared at his companion and roared, "Yen Zi, why the F***ck did you attack me?" The guy who was scolded also had a look of anger on his face as he roared, "Bullsh**t, when did I attack you? Look at my injuries. Isn't this the work of your flowing light finger? Damn, my shoulder was hit by the wind transformation blade. Gangzi, tell me." That Gangzi also cried out bitterly, "Don't complain first. This time, I was truly hit by the Big Dipper palm. Old Tang, you must give me an explanation." These 4 people all revealed a face full of bad luck as they started to fight among themselves on the spot. All of them spoke with one voice and accused their companion of attacking them. Additionally, each of them had the injuries on their body as proof. They argued endlessly as their faces and ears turned red. They almost forgot who they were dealing with. They rolled up their sleeves and were about to find trouble with each other. Certainly, this scene had left that young master dumbstruck and speechless for a while. Even Mi Jia had a face full of disbelief. She had witnessed the situation from a moment ago. However, in the end, she did not see clearly how Qin Wushuang had made his move. She only felt that the 4 waves of power had suddenly deviated from the path and shot towards those 4 guys. Mi Jia was not certain whether Qin Wushuang had made the move or not. She looked towards Qin Wushuang with some bewilderment. However, she saw a tall figure walking forward leisurely from the other side of the long street. This figure appeared even more dashing under the sunlight. A strange look flitted across Mi Jia's eyes. Immediately, she flicked the bangs on her forehead and took a step forward with a grin, chasing in the direction of Qin Wushuang. Seeing that Mi Jia was about to leave, young Master Yi hurriedly asked, "Miss Mi Jia, where are you going?" Mi Jia rolled her eyes and said in all seriousness, "No one is standing up for me. I'll just take it that I'm unlucky. Anyway, I can't escape from his evil clutches. I might as well just follow him, so that the innocent people won't be hurt." Young Master Yi kept his fan. His expression was strange and his breathing was rapid. The veins on his forehead were bulging. He straightened his neck and said in a tone as if he was facing death with equanimity, "Miss Mi Jia, count me in. Even if I can't beat that kid, I'll fight it out with him. Hurry up and go as far as you can. As he said, he stomped his foot and rushed towards Qin Wushuang. Mi Jia smiled strangely and scolded in a low voice, "What a fool! Stupid and stupid. It's no fun to tease him." Seeing young Master Yi catching up with him quickly, Qin Wushuang suddenly turned around and urged his aura. Young Master Yi was stunned and stopped his footsteps subconsciously. However, his eyes were not fearful at all. He stared at Qin Wushuang and shouted excitedly, "Kid, I don't care who you are or how strong you are. We, the Dragon Clan, have our bottom line. You can chase after Miss Mi Jia and compete fairly, but you can't force her. When it comes to marriage, there won't be happiness if you force her." Seeing Qin Wushuang carelessly touching his earlobe and looking completely absent-minded, young Master Yi became even more furious and roared, "Don't think that you can be unscrupulous just because you have some ability. Let me tell you, for Miss Mi Jia's happiness, I'll fight it out with you even if I have to bleed on the spot today." Qin Wushuang sighed. Although this young Master Yi is a dandy, his character doesn't seem to be bad. After all, he's still different from the average dandy. If he had not done so, Qin Wushuang would have slapped him to the corner to cry. Sighing softly, Qin Wushuang asked indifferently, "Young Master Yi, you're a disciple of the Pu Lao clan, right?" Young Master Yi was flustered and exasperated. "That's me. What do you want?" Qin Wushuang glanced at Mi Jia's direction and asked helplessly, "Since you're a disciple of the Pu Lao clan, you shouldn't be someone who hasn't seen the world, right? What's Miss Mi Jia's nickname?" Young Master Yi was stunned. "Why are you talking about this? Although Miss Mi Jia is called a demoness, that's a misinterpretation of her by the outside world. In fact, she's very simple and cute." "That demoness can be called cute? She can be called simple?" Qin Wushuang was truly speechless. Why else would the saying that beauty is in the eye of the beholder be true? "Young Master Yi, I think the cute and simple person is not that demoness but you. You've been at the endless Eastern Sea for so many years. When have you ever heard of this demoness being taken advantage of? When have you ever heard of someone daring to coerce this demoness? You can't even see through such a simple lie. What is it if it's not simple?" Young Master Yi was completely stunned. Miss Mi Jia is joking?" Qin Wushuang said seriously. "I don't have the mind to understand whether she's joking or not. If I didn't see your innocence, I wouldn't bother to explain so much to you. In short, for that demoness, whoever likes her can go chase after her. I get a headache when I see her, not to mention something as melodramatic as forced marriage." Mi Jia was exposed, yet she was not angry. She walked over with a face full of evil smiles. "Hey, you're insulting me before my suitor, be careful that I don't fall out with you." Qin Wushuang rolled his eyes at her and retorted sarcastically, "You can do whatever you want, you fall out faster than flipping a book." Mi Jia said leisurely, "You have such a high opinion of me, ha ha." Young Master Yi realized that he seemed to be truly reckless. He let out an awkward and dry laugh and looked at Mi Jia, then at Qin Wushuang. He seemed to have understood something. "Young Master Yi, I was just joking with you, you don't mind it this much, right?" Mi Jia asked with a face full of smiles. Young Master Yi's heart skipped a beat. He had never seen Mi Jia talking to him with such a pleasant expression. He immediately smiled apologetically. I don't mind. Ha ha, if it's a misunderstanding, then it's even better. Miss Mi Jia loves to joke, I've always known it. It's not a big deal, ha ha ha." Qin Wushuang did not know whether to admire this guy or despise him. Speaking of despise, although this guy was a dandy, he dared to stand up against someone stronger than him. He was not a dandy without a backbone. Speaking of admiration, this guy was so dead set on a demoness. He was teased so badly, but he was still willing to endure it. This made Qin Wushuang feel that something was not right. Although young Master Yi was a dandy, He was not the kind of person who could not get along well. After knowing that he had misunderstood Qin Wushuang, he also cupped his fist. "Brother, I was reckless just now, I have to apologize to you." Qin Wushuang waved his hand. "Forget it, I'll teach you a lesson. When you meet this demoness in the future, you must be on your guard. Don't go into a frenzy and fight with your life on the line. If I wasn't in a good mood today and didn't lower myself to your level, the 5 of you would have to go back lying down. Do you believe me?" Young Master Yi chuckled. "I believe that. Brother, your skills are as fast as a ghost. When I rushed up just now, I was already mentally prepared to be beaten up by you." When he said this, Qin Wushuang was speechless. This guy was really a love saint. He knew that he was going to be beaten up, but he still rushed up without hesitation. The most ridiculous thing was that this hero saving the beauty came at such an inopportune time. Mi Jia had an indifferent look. As a demoness, teasing those men who were drooling over her had always been one of her hobbies. She felt a little regretful that her prank did not work. However, seeing this young master like this, she naturally could not continue to tease him. "Miss Mi Jia and this brother, as the saying goes, no discord, no concord. I have offended you just now. Why don't we go to the restaurant in front and have a few drinks together? This Yazzie Dragon Race's wine is the best." This young master suddenly had a flash of inspiration. He seized the opportunity and invited. The longer he could stay with Miss Mi Jia, the more chances he had. Mi Jia was just about to drink. She smiled and said, "I don't have any objections. It's just that someone seems to be very arrogant. It's hard to say if I can invite him." Young Master smiled apologetically and said, "Brother, how about giving me a chance to apologize?" Qin Wushuang was noncommittal. If this guy didn't look for trouble, he would be a straightforward person. Qin Wushuang was just about to inquire about something. He nodded and said, "Then I shall accept your invitation." When they arrived in front of a restaurant, Qin Wushuang suddenly felt a sharp gaze shooting down from the roof. When he looked up, it was gone. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 761. Although Qin Wushuang was surprised in his heart, he did not take it to heart. Following young Master Yi and his party, they walked into the restaurant. This restaurant obviously had the dragon race background of the Yazzie clan. Therefore, they had an intuitive ability to identify the prominent disciples of the dragon race. Seeing young Master Yi and Mi Jia walk in, they immediately knew that they were the prominent disciples of other dragon races. Not daring to be negligent, someone had already come out to welcome them. "Esteemed guests, are you in the hall or in the private room?" Young Master Yi did not take on everything, but turned his gaze to Qin Wushuang and Mi Jia. Mi Jia did not even think, of course, in the hall. Young Master Yi was stunned and secretly rejoiced. Fortunately, he did not act smart and say that he wanted a private room. This Miss Mi Jia was indeed different. Everyone was proud of the private room, but she was happy to be in the hall. Mi Jia glanced at Qin Wushuang. "You don't have any objections, right?" Qin Wushuang said numbly, "In front of you, there doesn't seem to be much difference whether I have objections or not, right?" Mi Jia smiled leisurely. "Of course, a man should maintain his poise in front of a girl. Don't you agree, young Master Yi?" Young Master Yi puffed up his chest. "Yes, yes." After finding a spacious seat in the hall and sitting down, young Master Yi's aristocratic style was reflected. A series of actions were very appropriate. Qin Wushuang also praised him when he saw this. Putting aside the side of young Master Yi's attitude towards women, in other aspects, he was a good young man. After the wine was poured, young Master Yi glanced at Qin Wushuang. "Brother, I have offended you just now. I will punish myself by drinking 3 cups as an apology. By the way, may I know your name?" Qin Wushuang gave a sound of yes and said, "It's just a small matter, not worth mentioning. It's good that you have spoken. As for my name, you can ask Miss Mi Jia in the future. Today it is inconvenient to tell you." Young Master Yi was stunned, but he did not mind and said with a smile, "All right, no matter what, I will drink these 3 cups first." After saying that, he raised his head and drank 3 cups in a row. Mi Jia smiled. "Young Master Yi, by the way, what is your full name?" "My name is Yi Qian." "Oh, Yi Qian, right? You want to know who he is?" Mi Jia blinked her eyes and asked with a smile. Yi Qian was tactful. Since this brother is not willing to talk about it, he must have his own difficulties. If there's an opportunity in the future, it won't be too late to ask for guidance. Mi Jia smiled leisurely. "There's no need for that in the future. I'll tell you now." Qin Wushuang's heart tightened, and he looked around vigilantly. He didn't have the slightest confidence that he could shut this witch's mouth. His only hope was that there were no other troublesome existences in this restaurant. However, to Qin Wushuang's disappointment, the eyes of the surrounding drinkers were all focused on him. Evidently, everyone was very familiar with Witch Mi Jia. At the same time, they were naturally even more curious about Witch Mi Jia's companions. The most dangerous thing was not the area around the hall, but the sound of footsteps coming from upstairs. Thud, 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 someone was slowly walking down the stone step. When Yi Qian saw that the atmosphere was a little heavy, he hurriedly smiled and said, "Miss Mi Jia, let's talk about this in the future. I'm fortunate enough to drink with Miss Mi Jia. This cup, no matter what, must be a toast to Miss Mi Jia." As soon as he finished speaking, a disdainful snort came from the corridor. "Yi Qian, you're really useless. After being taught a lesson, you don't even dare to inquire about the person's name? Such a good-for-nothing, you've really disgraced the name of us non-descendants of the 9 dragon clans." Although Yi Qian had good self-restraint, it didn't mean that he was a pushover. Putting down the wine cup, he said coldly, "He Xinyu, it doesn't seem to be any of your business that we're drinking here, right?" That He Xinyu had a tall and straight figure, with distinct edges and corners. His appearance couldn't be said to be very handsome, but he was cold and had a strength of character, giving people a very manly feeling. This person had a hooked nose, a slightly raised mouth corner, and those 2 eyebrows that were almost connected together, showing that this person was a ruthless person. Clearly, Yi Qian restrained his fear of this person. The corner of He Xinyu's mouth twitched slightly. Clearly, he despised Yi Qian greatly. He did not even bother to speak. Instead, he walked before Mi Jia directly and picked up a cup to fill it with wine. Carrying a somewhat hypocritical smile, he said to Mi Jia, "Miss Mi Jia, this good-for-nothing doesn't dare to listen, but I am extremely interested." How could Mi Jia not know the background of this He Xinyu? In terms of seniority, he was 1 generation older than Mi Jia. 100 years ago, he was a young talent whose name shook the endless Eastern Sea. When he became famous 100 years ago, this He Xinyu had already entered the Supreme Tao stage. Now, after 100 years, the strength of this He Xinyu was even more unfathomable. In terms of identity, this He Xinyu was an elite warrior of the Qiu clan. Among the 18 dragon clans, the Qiu clan was a powerful clan that shook the entire region. They were a super existence among the 9 dragon clans. Even Mi Jia felt somewhat pressured before this He Xinyu. When this He Xinyu appeared, everyone at the scene turned their heads around sensibly and acted as if nothing had happened. They did not even dare to look at the lively scene. The Qiu clan settled down at the Evil Spirit Gulf and was adjacent to the 7 Murder Gulf of the Jackal Wolf clan. The 2 of them had a close relationship. Therefore, in the territory of the Jackal Wolf clan, this He Xinyu could be considered half a master. Plus, he was famous for being unreasonable, rude, and treacherous. As soon as he appeared, almost someone would suffer each time. Under He Xinyu's pressure, Mi Jia also felt a burst of unease. Yet, she ignored He Xinia's cup and said lightly, I am not interested in telling you. A trace of cold lights flashed across He Xinia's treacherous eyes. He revealed a light smile. What if I must know? Mi Jia glared at He Xiniu and said unhappily, He Xiniu, this is not your evil spirit gulf. If you want to behave atrociously, pick a place. Haha, when He Xiniu do things, it's the same no matter when or where. Even at the green universe gulf of your horned dragon clan, I still have this attitude. He Xiniu, don't be shameless. You are a supreme Dao expert of the Qianyu clan, that's right. But our Pu Lao clan is not afraid of you. When Yi Qian saw that his guest was being harassed, a burst of anger erupted. He Xiniu looked at Yi Qian as if he was looking at an idiot. He sneered and said, whether your Pu Lao clan is afraid of my Qianyu clan, I don't know. But I can be very sure that you are very afraid of me. As he spoke, he didn't look at Yi Qian but turned his gaze to Qin Wushuang and sized him up with interest. Qin Wushuang acted as if he didn't hear anything. He played with the wine cup while his other hand was caressing Ai Simo. From time to time, he would feed her some jerky to eat. It was as if this He Xiniu was like air in his eyes. What a young dragon! He Xinia's voice was cold. Only then did Qin Wushuang raise his head gently. The corner of his mouth revealed a trace of a mocking smile. Your Excellency doesn't seem to be very welcomed here. If I were you, I would leave tactfully. He Xinia smiled evilly and said, they can't send me away. But you, if you are willing to transfer the young dragon in your hands to me, I will leave immediately without saying anything. When these words came out, Mi Jia shouted on the spot, impossible! TSK, Miss Mi Jia seems to still be a virgin, right? This young dragon should have nothing to do with you. Why are you so nervous? He Xinia's mouth didn't accumulate virtue as he asked with a strange smile. These words immediately angered Yi Qian. In his heart, Mi Jia was a goddess. How could he use such vulgar words to blaspheme her? He suddenly stood up and slammed the table. He Xiniu, don't go too far. He Xinia glanced at him from the corner of his eyes and said casually, I am going too far. I have been going too far for more than 100 years. Don't tell me that you only know it today? Overbearing person, overbearing words. It made Yi Qian tongue-tied for a moment and unable to say anything. Yi Qian's gang wanted to stand out and speak, but under He Xinia's powerful pressure, it was difficult for them to even open their mouths. Their throats were astringent and they couldn't say a word. Yi Qian gritted his teeth and roared, I only know today that you bullied my guest. Even if I, Yi Qian, can't beat you, I can only fight with you today. He Xinia's eyes flashed and he laughed loudly. You want to fight with me? Yi Qian scuttled out of his seat like a whirlwind. He rolled up his sleeves and shouted, I will wait for you outside. Just as he was about to scuttle out, his shoulder suddenly sank. He was pulled by a suction force and walked back to his seat. Qin Wushuang's eyebrows raised slightly. Brother Yi Qian, you are still so impulsive. Yi Qian didn't expect that Qin Wushuang would make a move at this time. He opened his mouth but didn't know what to say. He Xenia saw all of this and sighed. You do have some skills. However, I still want this young dragon. Say it, what reward do you want? Say it before my mood turns bad. Maybe I can consider rewarding you. This He Xiniu obviously didn't put Qin Wushuang and the others in his eyes. His words seemed to carry a kind of high and mighty judgment tone. Mi Jia and Ai Simo had been together for a long time. Of course, she couldn't bear to part with her. She shouted, You have no feelings for this young dragon baby. What do you want to do? You don't have to worry about this. Qin Wushuang chuckled and stroked Ai Simo's little head lovingly. Little fellow, although your aptitude is good, you are born to be a troublemaker. You are already so eye-catching when you are just born. How will you be in the future? However, since you call me father, let me ask you, how can a father transfer his daughter to someone else? What's more, it is such an annoying person. Zinnia's expression suddenly changed. A haze immediately gathered on his face, and he smiled sinisterly. It seems that today is really different from the past. Each and every one of you has an indescribable arrogance. Zinnia sneered again and again. His tone suddenly changed. Listen carefully. My patience is already exhausted. I want this young dragon for sure. Moreover, the best chance to ask for a reward has already been squandered by you. Qin Wushuang suddenly stared at Zinnia as if he was looking at an idiot. He sneered and asked, Sire, is there any meaning in talking to yourself like this? Chunyo clan, it sounds like a big name. Tell me, if I don't agree, what will you do? Do you think you have the qualification to not agree? Zinnia's face was covered with frost. His tone was full of contempt. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 762. Mi Jia was the first to accept Zinnia's arrogant tone. She grabbed with her hand and the long whip was already in her hand. A crimson light was extremely dazzling. With a light shake, there were powerful supreme Tao ripples. She gritted her teeth. Zinnia, I will test you first. You? Zinnia's eyelids didn't even move. Miss Mi Jia, although I don't have any feelings towards the Horned Dragon clan, in this kind of situation, I don't want others to say that I bullied a woman. The moment Mi Jia heard the word woman, she flew into a rage. What's wrong with being a woman? Take this. Mi Jia's character was swift and fierce. If she wanted to fight, she would fight. She would not be polite. As the long whip coiled, red rays of light condensed and adhered to the long whip. It looked like a red lightning bolt dancing in the air. With a casual twist, it wrapped around Zinnia's neck. Zinnia's eyelids finally twitched slightly, and a playful smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He gently lifted his palm, and his wrist actually took the initiative to roll towards Mi Jia's whip. The red light shone brightly, and Zinnia's wrist shone brightly. Instantly, it was wrapped around a few times. Zinnia looked at Mi Jia with a smile that was not a smile. Miss Mi Jia, if you really want to fight, you are still far from it. The fingertip of his left hand touched the tip of the whip lightly. A strong divine power poured in like a tide and flowed towards Mi Jia through the whip. Mi Jia felt as if her entire body had been electrocuted. Her facial expression kept changing. Clenching his teeth, he activated his aura once again, sending it out continuously. He actually wanted to fight head-on with Zinnia. Qin Wushuang's figure flashed and already scurried to Mi Jia's side. Although this Mi Jia was crazy and loved to stir up trouble, no matter what, she was still the same kind of person. Qin Wushuang naturally saw that this Mi Jia was not Zinnia's opponent. He scuttled in front of Mi Jia and bellowed, "Let go!" With a grab of his right hand, he had already grabbed Mi Jia's whip in his hand. That Zinnia originally still had some tender feelings for the fairer sex. Seeing Qin Wushuang make a move was exactly what he wanted. He continued to urge his power, and waves of energy surged over. Qin Wushuang's expression was indifferent, like an ancient well without ripples. Activate power of deep north and absorb it. 1, 2, 3. When the surging energy reached the edge of Qin Wushuang's palm, it immediately became like a tamed beast. It obediently lined up in an orderly manner and was sucked into Qin Wushuang's dantian one after another. With one breath, Qin Wushuang was also secretly in awe. This Zinnia is indeed stronger than the Flood Dragon clan's supreme Tao. I'm afraid he is at least at the 6th or 8th tribulation of the Coagulate Supreme Tao. It is indeed different from the 3rd or 4th tribulation of the Coagulate Supreme Tao. However, no matter how turbulent the power of the divine Tao of the coagulate divine Tao was, Qin Wushuang was still able to receive it with a smile. In fact, Qin Wushuang didn't feel any discomfort at all. Instead, he faintly enjoyed it. This kind of divine Tao power was the most substantial, making his dantian feel an extremely pleasant feeling. When Xenia saw Qin Wushuang, he had always thought that he was at the peak of the common mysterious realm. He didn't expect that when he activated a few divine Tao powers, it was like a stone sinking into the sea. His expression changed slightly. Xenia faintly realized that the calm and composed young man standing in front of him was much more powerful than he imagined. "Brat, what kind of method are you using?" Xenia shouted. His wrist shook and directly shook off the whip. Qin Wushuang secretly lamented that it was a pity. He had hoped that this Xenia would show off and persist for a while more. However, this Xenia was actually very sensitive. After suffering a little loss, he immediately let go. With Xenia's powerful ability, it was obviously not possible for Qin Wushuang to use power of Deep North to lock the other party in one go. Qin Wushuang took advantage of the situation and lashed out with his whip. Divine Tao power poured into the entire whip. Like a long rod, it directly smashed towards Xenia's head. Xenia snorted lightly. A ray of light flashed from his sleeve. A light blade blocked above his head, giving off a tragic metal collision sound. The light overflowed and splashed countless fragments, spreading outwards in circles. It caused a commotion in the surroundings, and the diners hurried to avoid it. Qin Wushuang did not wait for his move to finish, and his body had already rushed out of the restaurant. His melodious voice could be heard. "Xenia, if you want my young dragon, follow me if you have the guts." Xenia laughed nastily. Without even looking at Mi Jia and Yiqian, his figure flashed and he chased after Qin Wushuang. Yiqian was very anxious and asked, "Miss Mi Jia, are we going?" Mi Jia waved her hand and suddenly thought of something. "Oh right, Yiqian, what are you doing in the Yazi Dragon City?" Yiqian scratched his head and laughed embarrassedly. Now, many disciples of the Dragon Clan have left their own territories and are heading towards the eastern polar region. I just want to follow them and join in the fun. "So, you are just passing by here?" "Yes, Miss Mi Jia too, right?" Yiqian asked. "Is there any latest news?" Mi Jia frowned. Now, the leaders of the Dragon Clan are all in the first-rate Dragon Palace. There shouldn't be many people in the eastern polar region now. I only arrived here because I am closer. Is there any news about the Golden Crow? Yiqian's complexion changed slightly and said with a bitter smile, "Of course not. Whoever has news about the Golden Crow, I'm afraid they won't be able to bring it out alive." "Oh right, Miss Mi Jia, who is that brother? How many friends does this Xenia have in the Yazi Dragon Clan?" "The Seven Murders Abyss and the Evil Spirit Abyss have always been on good terms. I'm afraid it won't be very beneficial to him." Mi Jia snorted coldly. "This Xenia is courting death. Forget it, if you don't want to get into trouble. You should also leave this Yazi Dragon City quickly." After saying that, Mi Jia also rushed out like a whirlwind. Yiqian was stunned for a moment and said to himself, "Miss Mi Jia is actually concerned about me and wants me to leave the Yazi Dragon City. I can't let her good intentions down." Thinking of this, Yiqian's dejection was swept away and he happily paid the bill. Unexpectedly, he obediently rushed out of the Yazi Dragon City. Mi Jia wasn't worried that Qin Wushuang would leave first. She had her own secret technique to track Qin Wushuang. After leaving the Yazi Dragon City, Mi Jia's speed also increased by a lot. However, even so, she was still unable to shorten the distance between her and Qin Wushuang. As for that Xenia, he was also quite impressive. He was so thick-skinned and was actually very persistent. He chased relentlessly and stuck to them like a dog fart plaster. Although Mi Jia knew that Xenia's methods were powerful, she had also experienced Qin Wushuang's heaven-defying methods. Therefore, she wasn't too worried. As long as Qin Wushuang didn't fall into a tight encirclement, she didn't need to worry at all. "He Xinyu, this bastard, don't die too early," Mi Jia scolded angrily. Qin Wushuang led that He Xinyu and flew out of the Yazi Dragon City towards the east. The territory of the Seven Murders Abyss was 400,000 to 500,000 miles. Flying in a straight line, to leave the territory of the Seven Murders Abyss, there was at least a distance of 100,000 miles. Qin Wushuang had deliberately slowed down his speed when he had tracked them until dusk. He knew that this place was already at the border of the Seven Murders Abyss territory. They were even further away from the Evil Spirit Abyss. As long as they left the Seven Murders Abyss and the Evil Spirit Abyss, this He Xinyu would not have a heaven-defying helper in a short time. Inwardly, He Xinyu was also astonished. Initially, he thought that it would be a piece of cake to chase and kill an elite warrior beneath the Supreme Tao stage. In the end, he realized that everything was his own wishful thinking. After a day of chasing, it allowed him to completely understand what it meant to be a troublesome opponent. Inwardly, He Xinyu also felt strange. Since when did such a monstrous figure emerge from my endless eastern sea? Could he be a totem disciple? As he thought this way, a burst of cold sweat emerged on the back of He Xinyu's spine. Immediately, he overthrew this thought. It's impossible for a totem disciple to be with that little bitch Mi Jia. Besides, the totem disciple doesn't even need to make a move with me. He could just reveal his identity. Why would he need to do this? While he was lost in thought, suddenly he changed his mind. A while ago, 5 elite warriors of the Crocodile Dragon, Winged Dragon, and Hornless Dragon clan went missing. Calculating the time, it seems to be close. I heard that those 5 guys went for that Qin clan disciple of the Xian Yuan Mound. An existence that was able to kill 5 Supreme Tao powerhouses. Who was it? Could it be related to this guy? Vividly, there are fluctuations of dragon presence from this guy. Could he be a disciple of the Dragon clan? He Xinyu kept thinking, yet he could not figure out a clue. However, vividly, he sensed that the background of this person should not be small. Or else, he would not be so sensitive about his identity and be unwilling to speak of it. While he was lost in thought, suddenly movements emerged from He Xinyu's communication jade plate. He immediately activated it. "Xinyu, are you encountering trouble?" The one who spoke was a Supreme Tao elite warrior from the Jackal Wolf clan. He was an elite warrior that shared a good relationship with He Xinyu. "Yes, Shuya, where are you? Could you invite a few friends out? I've been chasing towards the east. I found a kid that is extremely strange. I suspect that he is a guy that escaped from the Xian Yuan Mound." "A guy that escaped from the Xian Yuan Mound? You are talking about that young disciple of the Qin clan, Qin Wushuang?" the other party asked with astonishment. "For now I am not sure. However, I always feel that he is not a disciple of the Dragon clan. Shuya, regardless of whether he is or not, we must go to the eastern polar region. Come quickly. If he is that kid, we should take him down together and seize the graceful spiritual bow. That's the most important thing. Seize the graceful spiritual bow." Instantly, the tone of the other party became complicated. After a moment of hesitation, he said, "All right, you try to hold him back. I will bring people over now. Remember to be quick." A burst of fanaticism surged from the bottom of He Xinyu's heart. Greedy thoughts overflowed from his mind. When he thought of the graceful spiritual bow and that young dragon with unlimited potential, He Xinyu felt that his entire body was boiling. While he was thinking, suddenly a burst of imposing manner surged from the front. He Xinyu moved his consciousness and immediately followed it. With a glance from the corner of his eyes, he saw a person spreading out his wings and rushing over with majestic imposing manner. He held a spear in his hand. Indeed, he was the person that lured him out a moment ago. When He Xinyu saw the pair of wings on his back, he suddenly remembered something. "Indeed, it's you. You know it's me, do you still want to leave today? Qin Wushuang asked coldly. Zinnia roared with laughter. Such an arrogant kid, it seems you will not shed tears until you see the coffin. A kid from the Xian Yuan Mound came to my endless eastern sea to behave atrociously. Kid, I think you are tired of living. Qin Wushuang gave a cold sneer. Less nonsense, watch my spear. Pointing the tip of the spear, a burst of spear light filled the entire head of the spear and shot over with a rumbling sound. To be continued. If you want to know about the future, please log on to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 763. When that Zinnia saw him attacking with the spear, he didn't dare to lower his guard. The blade in his hand swayed, and he also blasted out a blade. It turned into thousands of sharp blade lights and rolled over. However, he chuckled and said, Kid, don't you have the graceful spiritual bow? Why don't you use it? Qin Wushuang said coldly, Once the graceful spiritual bow is used, you will definitely die. Zinnia's heart shivered, but he said unyieldingly, We will only know who will die after we try. You are just a cultivator below the supreme Tao stage. If you don't have the graceful spiritual bow, how can you be qualified to fight with me? How could Qin Wushuang not know that the other party was trying to provoke him? He hoped that he wouldn't use the graceful spiritual bow, but he deliberately said it as if he wasn't afraid of the graceful spiritual bow. He smiled faintly and suddenly withdrew the power of the spear. He smiled and said, Since you want to see the graceful spiritual bow, I won't let you down. When Zinnia's provocation didn't work, his heart shivered. However, he appeared to be unconcerned and said casually, Just use it. Qin Wushuang urged the purple cloud in yang wings and his body glided backward slowly. He grabbed with his palm, and it was instantly overflowing with golden light. He grabbed the graceful spiritual bow in his hand, and the shooting sun arrows were already knocked. When Zinnia saw the graceful spiritual bow, his eyes instantly became blurred. He made a hand gesture and countless afterimages were immediately formed. They converged and disappeared into the void. Obviously, although Zinnia talked about how powerful he was still very afraid when the graceful spiritual bow that could destroy the world appeared. Qin Wushuang urged his divine senses, and his divine senses covered a radius of a few hundred feet as he pursued continuously. It was obvious that Zinnia couldn't get close to the range of 1,000 feet. Although he disappeared into the void, he was still wandering at the side and observing Qin Wushuang's every move. Qin Wushuang also didn't release the falcon until he saw the rabbit. He didn't shoot from start to finish. Instead, his eyes were deep and his divine light swept around in all directions. Zinnia obviously wanted to stall for time. He condensed his divine senses into a voice and actually changed the trajectory of the voice. It was as if it was coming out from the ground. Qin Wushuang, the Flood Dragon, Winged Dragon, and Hornless Dragon clans' supreme Tao experts have gone missing. It's not wrong to put this debt on you, right? Kid, it's alright for you to behave atrociously at the Xian Yuan Mound. However, you are seeking your own death by coming to my endless eastern sea. Qin Wushuang turned a deaf ear and opened his transcendence eyes completely. The observant finger jade plate was constantly swaying in front of him, and he could naturally lock onto Zinnia's position. However, this Zinnia was very cunning. Even though he was hiding his body, he was still moving quickly, and he did not stop at all. With his speed, Qin Wushuang's success rate of accurately hitting him would not exceed 30%. In a battle with such an opponent, once the first wave of attacks was off target, the initiative of the subsequent attacks would be completely grasped by the opponent. At that time, the rhythm of the entire battle would be completely out of control. Therefore, Qin Wushuang would rather congeal and not fire than shoot randomly. At this moment, from the west, a red cloud was charging towards them at an incomparably fast speed. When Qin Wushuang caught a glimpse of that imposing manner from the corner of his eyes, he already knew that it was Mi Jia. While Mi Jia was moving at a rapid speed, she had already revealed her body completely. A long red dragon that was spitting out red clouds all of a sudden rushed over. She opened her mouth, and like a volcanic eruption, the red flames instantly dyed half of the horizon red. The power of this divine dragon fire was extremely great. Once it was activated, even someone as strong as He Xinyu would not dare to neglect it. With a flash, he already appeared in the clouds and swore, "Bitch, you live off one person while secretly helping the other. You colluded with human martial artists to deal with the Dragon Clan's passageway, how should you be punished? Go die." Mi Jia was too lazy to speak nonsense. She kept opening her mouth, and those flames kept gushing out one after another. Instantly, a giant blood-red whirlpool formed in the entire blue dome of heaven. It formed a burning chain, as if it was going to trap that He Xinyu inside the whirlpool. He Xinyu gave a low shout and his body also rolled up. Indistinctly, orange-yellow scales appeared around his body. Under the afterglow of the setting sun, this radiance appeared even more eerie. Qion Yo arched his body, and his entire body curled up into a ball. Suddenly, his body stretched out incomparably. With a roar, he actually dashed out of the giant red whirlpool directly. Baring his fangs and brandishing his claws, he charged towards Mi Jia. The power of the seventh tribulation of the Coagulate Supreme Tao stage was fully displayed at this moment. Wherever the divine light passed, the red clouds that were dyed by the red whirlpool were nibbled away at a speed that could be seen by the naked eye. It was as if it was swept away cleanly like a whirlwind. In the blink of an eye, Mi Jia was also a little stunned. Only then did she realize the gap between them. However, it seemed to be a little too late. At this moment, Qin Wushuang gave a long shout. With the purple cloud in yang wings piercing through the void, he rushed over hurriedly. The graceful spiritual bow in his hand was also stretched out incomparably. Both of his arms were stretched out. Like a godly archer who had been on the battlefield for a long time, he almost did not need to aim and just drew the bow directly. Whoosh! The bowstring vibrated and the sound pierced through the clouds. It shook the clouds until they were extinguished and the blue dome of heaven shattered. That shooting sun arrow was like a hunting dog that saw its prey as it rapidly shot towards He Xinyu's doppelganger. Just as He Xinyu was about to reach the front of Mi Jia, that shooting sun arrow, which was shot later, arrived first. It had already shot to within 10 zhang of his back. He Xinyu roared like a tiger. With a sweep of his dragon tail, he rolled it crazily. 1 round, 2 rounds, 3 rounds, countless circles of supreme Tao ripples overflowed unceasingly and condensed into a ball. It continuously formed a dragon's breath barrier behind the doppelganger. It was like a transparent giant wall. Mi Jia also took advantage of this blink of an eye to soar into the sky. She swept over He Xinyu's head and met up with Qin Wushuang. Qin Wushuang raised his left hand and threw Mi Jia's whip into the sky. Mi Jia took advantage of the opportunity to roll the whip and kept it in her doppelganger. Boom! At this moment, a tragic explosion resounded through the clouds. When the shooting sun arrow slammed into the divine Tao barrier, it actually got stuck. 2 powerful forces, like 2 overbearing wild beasts, met on the single plank bridge. No one was willing to give way to the other and appeared to be in a state of anxiety. Qin Wushuang was greatly surprised. This was the first time, definitely the first time. The power of the graceful spiritual bow and shooting sun arrow was actually blocked by the other party's supreme Tao power. As expected of a 7th or 8th tribulation supreme Tao elite warrior, the barrier formed by this dragon's breath was much stronger than Lei Ming and Luo Tongtian. It was no wonder that Mi Jia was not even a match for He Xinyu. Qin Wushuang was also a person who would become stronger when encountering a strong opponent. Seeing that the shooting sun arrow was in a state of anxiety, he opened his arm and knocked another shooting sun arrow on the bowstring. At this moment, Mi Jia said anxiously, "Don't be obsessed with fighting. Leave quickly. Shu Ye of the Yazi clan has gathered a group of experts and left the Yazi Dragon City in a hurry. They are heading here." She was afraid that Qin Wushuang did not know the inside story. Shu Ye and this He Xinyu are best friends. His cultivation is higher than He Xinyu's. Leave quickly. Qin Wushuang was expressionless as he asked, "How long have they left?" "I don't know how long. Anyway, they will be here soon." When Mi Jia thought of the pestering of the Yazi clan, she also had goosebumps. Among the 18 dragon clans, there were many forces that were not to be trifled with. However, if one were to talk about the few dragon clans that were not to be trifled with, the Yazi clan would definitely be in the top 3. They could even be ranked first. Once the Yazi clan set their eyes on someone, they would really be like maggots in the bone. They would not rest until they were dead. Qin Wushuang's gaze was piercingly cold as he stared at He Xinyu in the distance. He gritted his teeth and said, "If I don't kill this bastard, I will always feel uncomfortable. However, to kill this person, unless I enter the Supreme Tao, there is no hope at all. Even if you want to kill him, it is not now. Leave quickly," Mi Jia urged. Qin Wushuang sighed. He knew that today's matter was already impossible. He could only make a feint. With a wave of his arm, he called back the shooting sun arrow. He dashed forward together with Mi Jia. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared among the clouds. After this battle, He Xinyu also put away his contempt completely. He looked ahead with a dazed expression and bursts of vicious lights flowed out from his eyes. This battle allowed him to learn some lessons and also aroused his vicious nature. Upon thinking of the power of the graceful spiritual bow, He Xinyu's entire body could not refrain from swaying. Indeed, it was too powerful. A martial artist beneath the Supreme Tao stage could fight against him. A 7th calamity coagulate Supreme Tao warrior using the graceful spiritual bow. It was enough to see how powerful the graceful spiritual bow was. He Xinyu panted lightly and secretly clenched his fist. If I can get that graceful spiritual bow, with my talent, in the future at this endless eastern sea, even the forefather dragon clan will treat me with special respect, right? Qin Wushuang and Mi Jia headed east. After dashing for 100,000 miles in one breath, when they saw that He Xinyu did not follow them, they slowed down their footsteps slightly. This time Mi Jia was also anxious. A moment ago, if Qin Wushuang had not saved her in time, most likely she would have been swallowed by He Xinyu. Mi Jia had a lingering fear and knew that this time she had caused a disaster. If she had not deliberately teased that Yi Qian, most likely she would not have attracted that He Xinyu. Qin Wushuang, wait a moment. What? Qin Wushuang was expressionless. I'm sorry. Mi Jia's throat was somewhat dry. She rarely spoke these 3 words in her lifetime. Therefore, it appeared somewhat awkward to say. Let it be, before we entered the restaurant, this He Xinyu already had his eyes on you and me. Whether you made a scene or not, he would have come to find trouble. Then, Qin Wushuang felt that he was too easy to talk to as he said again. Anyways, after we arrive at the rushing current valley, we will each take what we need and go our separate ways. No one owes anyone anything. Mi Jia faintly sighed and did not refute. She was in a daze as if she was thinking about something. After the two had been taught a lesson by He Xinyu, Mi Jia's demonic nature had indeed been restrained. She also knew that if she continued to make trouble, perhaps Qin Wushuang would break up with her immediately. Without Qin Wushuang's help, it was impossible for her to obtain the scarlet blazing fire. After being attacked by He Xinyu, Mi Jia's desire for the scarlet blazing fire increased. She said in her heart, If I had used the scarlet blazing fire to surround that Xinyu, it would be impossible for him to rush out. I must obtain this fire. Xinyu, just you wait. This debt, I will settle it with you sooner or later. After exiting the 7 Kills abyss, they were getting closer to the eastern polar region. About half a month later, the two finally arrived at the rumored eastern polar region. What entered their eyes, other than the boundless mist and torrential water, there was nothing else. The water and the sky were the same color. Everything was boundless. Qin Wushuang looked at the boundless mist and could not help but be somewhat disappointed. This is the eastern polar region? How can we find the scarlet blazing fire in such a boundless body of water? Mi Jia said, don't be impatient. Although the eastern polar region is like this all year round, there will be times when it clears up. Let's wait for a while. When the weather improves and the vision is better, we will look for the entrance to the rushing current valley. The terrain of the eastern polar region is very simple. However, because of the mist all year round, it is extremely easy to get lost. If it is not a sunny day, we must not get involved. Qin Wushuang looked at the boundless body of water and was confused. Fusang Wood, scarlet blazing fire, will there be them here? To be continued. If you want to know what will happen, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 764. Qin Wushuang also smacked his tongue inwardly. The cost of that golem puppet was too high. Regardless of the hibiscus wood or the scarlet fire, the difficulty of acquiring them was unimaginable to ordinary people. Just with this boundless water area, it already gave people a sense of crisis, not to mention the possibility of the legendary golden crow being resurrected. However, the rushing current valley ruins of the eastern polar region had always been known as a place full of fortuitous opportunities. Even if it was full of dangers, it could not stop the martial artist's desire to explore. Due to the weather, Qin Wushuang and Mi Jia could not enter. They could only stay on the outside. At the border area of the eastern polar region, there was a place called Rising Sun City. This Rising Sun City was known as the easternmost city of the Tianxian land. It was also the last city of the eastern polar region. After the Rising Sun City, there were no more cities. The two of them arrived at the Rising Sun City. This medium-sized city was already filled with martial artists of all shapes and sizes. Upon arriving at this eastern polar region, Qin Wushuang was much more at ease. Even if the assassins from various forbidden spiritual zones were to rush at him, Qin Wushuang would still be fearless. Anyways, at this eastern polar region, within the boundless water area, no one would dare to say they could handle it with ease. At this moment, Qin Wushuang was not worried about the rumor of the Golden Crow. Vividly, he hoped that the Golden Crow truly existed. Since the mist did not disperse, many martial artists stayed at the Rising Sun City. Although Qin Wushuang had always maintained a low-profile style, Mi Jia's proud figure and superior appearance were still extremely eye-catching. Just like a firefly in the dark, it was difficult to keep a low profile. After Xinyu, Shuya, and the other Supreme Dao elite warriors gathered and listened to Xinyu's narration, they all felt apprehensive. Although Xinyu did not wish to cooperate with Shuya and the others to deal with Qin Wushuang, he had no other choice. He knew that certainly he could not deal with Qin Wushuang alone. Only by joining hands would they have the hope to subdue Qin Wushuang and seize the graceful spiritual bow. As for how to distribute the graceful spiritual bow after they had obtained it, they could only act according to the circumstances. Xinyu had some small calculations in his stomach, but he couldn't make a decision at the moment. He could only take one step at a time. Xinyu was a man who held grudges. Towards Qin Wushuang's offense, it could be said that he hated him to the bones. Since he had called Shuya and the others, of course he would not hold back and spread the information. Instantly, the news of Qin Wushuang heading to the eastern polar region had spread across the entire endless eastern sea. After receiving the news, the assassins from various forbidden spiritual zones rushed to the east like carps crossing the river. Xinyu also made up his mind. Even if that graceful spiritual bow did not land on his head, he must not let Qin Wushuang leave the endless eastern sea alive. In the vicinity of the coiled dragon royal mansion, clearly Lei Yu and Xian Tianwu also received this news through their intelligence network. Without a second word, Xian Tianwu shouted, "Let's go to the eastern polar region. Let's see that kid fly to the sky." Lei Yu shook his head slowly and revealed a few traces of deep thought. "You don't want to go?" Xian Tianwu was somewhat annoyed. "It's not that I don't want to go, it's that there's no need to go," Lei Yu said lightly. "First, this coiled dragon royal mansion is the westernmost part of the endless eastern sea, and the eastern polar region is the easternmost part of the endless eastern sea. It's also one of the most dangerous places in the entire Tianxian land. Secondly, the news of the revival of the Golden Crow has been spread. Regardless of whether it's true or not, we must be on guard. Thirdly, when the news of pursuing Qin Wushuang spread out, elite warriors from various forbidden spiritual zones have gathered. There must be many people heading to the eastern polar region." Xian Tianwu was dizzy with hatred. Upon hearing Lei Yu's analysis, she was also speechless. Yet, she must admit that Lei Yu's words made sense. From the coiled dragon royal mansion to the eastern polar region, it could be said that it crossed the east and west of the entire endless eastern sea. To make it there, even if they were to sprint at full speed and not consider any external factors, it would take 1 or 2 months. If there were any delays along the way, it would be possible for it to take 3 months. After 3 months, by the time they made it there, most likely it would have been too late. Now, that kid is the target of public criticism. This time, he will die for sure since his whereabouts were exposed. I am afraid that graceful spiritual bow will be taken away by others. I am truly unwilling. Xian Tianwu gave a long sigh. However, Lei Yu shook his head. No, that kid is extremely strange and cannot be speculated with common sense. Initially, when we surrounded the aspiring throne mountain, didn't he also escape easily? That Qin Wushuang usually has the means to escape in such situations. He might not die. Strange lights flashed across Xian Tianwu's eyes. It's best if he doesn't die. Since he escaped to the coiled dragon royal mansion, we will be waiting for him. Lei Yu chuckled. If he was chased all the way here and suffered severe injuries, that would be the best. We will pick up a great bargain. We will wait at ease for an exhausted enemy. Suddenly, Xian Tianwu frowned slightly and a strange color was revealed from her eyes. A trace of ecstasy emerged from the corner of her mouth. Look, someone is coming out from the royal mansion. Lei Yu immediately fixed his gaze and saw that near the coiled dragon royal mansion, 4 figures scuttled out one after another. The leader was an extremely beautiful young girl. Behind her, there were 3 young people. Although they had different appearances, clearly they were not disciples of the dragon clan. Did you see anything? Xian Tianwu asked with a smile. Lei Yu laughed eerily. They are human martial artists. The strongest one is only at the refined void martial stage. The others are all at the perfect stage. Certainly they are disciples of the Stargaze Palace. It's impossible for the coiled dragon royal mansion to have disciples with such low strength. Clearly they do not have any dragon presence. Lei Yu analyzed. Should we make a move? Xian Tianwu asked. No rush, let's observe. For these 4 people, there are 3 men and 1 woman. Judging from their appearance, they do not resemble Qin Wushuang. That woman should not be Qin Wushuang's sister. 4 Qin Wushuang's most important people, besides a few of his relatives, is his secular teacher, Tan Zhongqi. Clearly, these 4 are not Qin Wushuang's family. Lei Yu proposed to observe first. However, Xian Tianwu said, We have waited here for 1 or 2 months and have gained nothing. It's rare for these people to sneak out. If we do not make a move, I am afraid we will not have this chance in the future." Lei Yu still shook his head. Or else, if they did not encounter any danger when they came out this time, certainly they will let down their guard. In the future, there will be more opportunities. Let's see if we can catch the big fish. Xian Tianwu gave a long sigh. Big fish, if the big fish does not leave the house, how can we catch them? If we cannot wait for the big fish, we will catch these small fish, only. While they were talking, a young man on the other side laughed straightforwardly. Senior Sister Zhou Fu, you have been bored in the royal mansion for so long. Indeed, you feel refreshed after coming out for a walk. Shoo! Clearly, that girl was Qin Wushuang's senior sister Zhou Fu. She made a shushing motion. Junior brother Zhao, are you trying to startle the teachers? Of course, that junior brother Zhao was Zhao Muji. He still appeared spirited and high-spirited as he chuckled. The teachers are being too careful. Around the coiled dragon royal mansion, who would dare to behave atrociously? For the other two, one was from the line of Tan Zhongqi, Zhou Fu's junior brother Lu Ting. The other one was from the line of the fifth palace master, Miao Zhongxia. These two were core disciples of the Stargaze Palace, who had been instigated by Zhou Fu to come out to relax. Currently, these four were the backbone of the Stargaze Palace. Among the young generation, besides Wei Yi, they were the next in line. The four of them sneaked out of the coiled dragon royal mansion. Just when they were about to walk out, a figure scuttled out from the inside and stopped before Zhou Fu and the others. The figure of this person flew as fast as lightning. With a tall and straight figure, he carried himself confidently. Indeed, he was senior brother Wei Yi. Wei Yi stopped before everyone. Four junior brothers, without the permission of the palace masters. Where are you guys going? Zhao Muji chuckled. Senior brother, we are just going to stroll around, it's all right. As long as there is the slightest movement, we will return to the defense formation. Nothing will happen. Wei Yi said with a determined attitude, go back. Zhou Fu bit her lips lightly. Senior brother, please make an exception. Don't you see that everything is fine now? Just let us stroll for a while, how about an hour? Wei Yi frowned lightly. Not even 15 minutes. Junior brothers and sisters, if you still think of me as your senior brother, then go in quickly. Zhou Fu mumbled, Senior apprentice brother, you are too rigid. It's stuffy to stay at the mansion all day long. Just let us go out and relax. It's not a big deal. Wei Yi gave a light sigh. Junior sister Zhou Fu, junior brother Wushuang is under the same teacher as you. You don't want to drag him down, right? Zhou Fu said strangely, how could I drag junior brother Wushuang down? Have you ever thought about what if someone with ulterior motives kidnapped you and me and threatened junior brother Wushuang to submit? With junior brother Wushuang's personality, what would he do? Zhou Fu stuttered and said, could it be such a coincidence that we met junior brother Wushuang's enemy as soon as we came out? Wei Yi said seriously. The Jianghu is a vicious place, it's not like the Stargaze Palace has never suffered such losses. Everyone, just bear with it. When the Qin clan has settled the situation at the Heavenly Emperor Mountain, good days will come for the Stargaze Palace. Zhou Fu approved of Qin Wushuang. Hearing Wei Yi's words, she nodded. All right, then we will wait a little longer. Wei Yi nodded. I also hope that junior brothers and sisters, there won't be a next time. If I didn't see you guys sneaking out today, I am afraid that you guys would have already gone far away. Zhou Fu chuckled. All right, senior brother, I know that the teachers sent you to watch us. I promise that it will not happen again, all right? Wei Yi laughed and waved his hand. Go in. Just as he was speaking these words, suddenly Wei Yi's expression changed. In a flash, Wei Yi initiated the power from his entire body, and a burst of violent wind knocked Zhou Fu and the others back. He said with a hurried tone, Go in. Zhou Fu and the others only felt pushed by this power, and could not help but bump into the inside. When Wei Yi looked again, a gigantic palm materialized in front of him and grabbed him by the waist. Wei Yi roared, "Go in! Don't come out! I'm tired after a busy day. Just this one chapter." For the next few days of this month, it might explode. However, Old Bull promised everyone that it will explode for a few days at the end of the month. The plan for the 100 chapters this month will only be more and not less. Please rest assured. Old Bull will arrange the time reasonably. As long as Old Bull does not go to the building materials market, he will strive to explode. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 765. Initially, Zhou Fu and the others were still somewhat confused. Through Wei Yi's roar, they immediately woke up and knew that the situation had changed. Zhao Muji was the first to react as he said to Zhou Fu and the others, "Go in and inform teacher and the others. Remember, do not come out." After he finished speaking, his body shook and the pair of magistrate brushes in his hand rumbled at that giant illusory palm without any regard for his own safety, shooting lights at a rapid speed. For this attack, clearly he held the spirit of facing death with equanimity. Despite knowing that it was impossible, he still did it. He also held the hope of getting lucky and hoped to disperse that welcoming giant palm to save Wei Yi. However, the difference in power was too great. Although it was only a small movement when a transformation Supreme Tao Elite Warrior made a move, it was not something Zhao Muji could compare to. Regardless of Zhao Muji's heroic move, it would be like a moth throwing itself into the fire. Xian Tianwu turned her hand seal slightly and a burst of invisible binding power bound Zhao Muji firmly. She pulled with two fingertips. Like a kite, Wei Yi and Zhao Muji were dragged over directly. Initially, when Xian Tianwu and Lei Yu heard Wei Yi's admonishment, their hearts went cold. Hearing Wei Yi's tone, it was impossible for these people to walk out of the mansion. If they were to let them walk in this time, they would not know when they would be able to. Xian Tianwu made a prompt decision and immediately made a move. Fortunately, Wei Yi had natural spiritual roots and possessed superior reaction speed. He sensed the danger immediately and pushed Zhou Fu and the others in. They were also lucky to be far away from Xian Tianwu, and Wei Yi was next to Zhou Fu and the others. Or else, even if they could react, most likely they would not have the time. After all, the speed of a Supreme Tao Elite Warrior was not something they could imagine. When Wei Yi saw Zhao Muji rush out, he roared angrily, "Junior brother Zhao, what are you doing out here?" Zhao Muji said with a bitter smile, "Senior brother, you fell into the trap to save us. If I escape back, it would be meaningless to live. This is called risking my life to accompany a gentleman. It was our willfulness that harmed eldest senior brother. As a brother, I can't save eldest senior brother. I can only live and die with him." Wei Yi gave a long sigh. "Why are you doing this? It's better to be one person than two people." Xian Tianwu said with a cold sneer, "These two bastards are pretending to be loyal before me, right?" Although Zhao Muji didn't know who it was, he knew that it was someone he couldn't afford to offend. Although he could not afford to offend them, Zhao Muji had always been proud and never knew what fear was. He scolded, "You old and ugly woman, where did you come from?" Although Xian Tianwu was a martial artist that had lived for more than 1,000 years, she had always relied on her beautiful appearance. When Zhao Muji called her old and ugly, immediately she burned with anger. Just as she was about to flare up, Lei Yu reminded her, "Fellow Taoist Tianwu, now is not the time to be angry with an ant like him. We have to leave first since we are behaving atrociously in front of the coiling dragon mansion. Otherwise, there will always be a lot of trouble in their domain." Xian Tianwu was apprehensive as she asked, "Where are we going? Should we return to the human countries or wait at the endless Eastern Sea?" "The situation at the endless Eastern Sea will certainly become more chaotic. We can wait at the border of the human countries." To the martial artists of the human countries, and even to the majority of the martial artists in the Xian Yuan Mound, the barriers that led to the endless Eastern Sea were insurmountable. However, before elite warriors of the Transformation Supreme Tao stage, these three barriers could almost be ignored. When they went in and out, they were safe and sound and could come and go freely. Almost without lingering, these two figures dashed towards the border of the endless Eastern Sea directly. Inside the coiling dragon mansion, when the palace masters received the news at the same time, they were greatly astonished. All of them rushed out. Currently, Wei Yi and Zhao Muji could be said to be the top two disciples of the Stargaze Palace. Earlier, Zhao Muji's strength was slightly inferior to Zhou Fu. After all these years of hard work, Zhao Muji's potential was greatly stimulated. He had already surpassed Zhou Fu and was only second to Wei Yi. To the Stargaze Palace, it would definitely be a tremendous loss if these two major disciples had met with mishap. When the 5 palace masters gathered and heard the cause, all of them revealed an incredibly grave expression. Especially Zhong Wuyin, the 3rd palace master, he was even more furious. Tan Zhongqi had always been protective of Zhou Fu and loved her dearly. At this moment, he shook his head helplessly. "Fu Er, since Wushuang is not here, you should be the role model of the Green Cloud Palace. Perhaps I have been too lenient with my teaching to you guys. Do you know how much trouble you've caused this time?" Now, Zhou Fu's beautiful face had also changed color. She bit her lips tightly and deep regret was written across her beautiful face. LV Ting said with a weak voice, "Teacher, for this matter, it's not only senior sister Zhou's fault, we are also responsible. If we didn't talk about playing." LV Ting, no need to speak. If it weren't for Fu Er's willful invitation, you guys would not have had such intentions. Fu Er, tell me, how should I punish you? Zhou Fu was on the verge of crying, yet she still held back her tears stubbornly. She said seriously, "Teacher, regardless of how you punish me, I will accept it. Even if you want me to die, I will not frown." At this moment, Zhuobuchuan, the head palace master, gave a long sigh. "Anyways, second, what's the use of pursuing the responsibility now? For this matter, we cannot blame them. With the temperament of young people, I am afraid we would be the same when we were young." "Ah." Tan Zhongqi gave a helpless sigh. "Now, the most urgent matter is how to get Wei Yi and Muji back. From their description, the enemy is as fast as a ghost. I am afraid they are at least elite warriors of the Supreme Tao. Even if the Stargaze Palace sends out all our forces, we would not be their match." Tian Zhixing, the 5th palace master, gave a long sigh. All palace masters were apprehensive and felt a wave of helplessness. Zhuobuchuan said, "Everyone, no need to be too sad. The Stargaze Palace does not have such a powerful enemy. The enemy captured those two for the purpose of threatening Wushuang. I am afraid their initial target was not Wei Yi and Muji. They just happened to run into them." "Wushuang?" Zhong Wuyin's expression became even more terrible. "This way, the enemy is from the Heavenly Emperor Gate? What should we do?" Lung Qiuqi, the 4th palace master, said, "The Heavenly Emperor Gate is going back on their words. In the past, they said they are not allowed to make a move against the human countries. Now, they are going back on their words? Fourth, don't forget we are at the endless Eastern Sea. Even if the Heavenly Emperor Gate made a move, they have a great excuse. Darn it, this Heavenly Emperor Gate is truly shameless." Zhuobuchuan waved his hand. "Everyone be quiet. If they captured those two to deal with Wushuang, at least for now, those two will not be in danger. Then what should we do? Wait? Or inform Wushuang?" Zhuobuchuan shook his head with determination. "We cannot inform Wushuang. If we inform Wushuang now, It will only throw him into confusion. For the Heavenly Emperor Gate to restrain their fear of Wushuang, what are they afraid of? Tan Zhongqi said, of course they are afraid of Wushuang's growth speed and potential. Yes, now they dare to make trouble for Wushuang because they know they can still deal with him. When the day comes when Wushuang grows to the point where the Heavenly Emperor Gate cannot shake him, they will not dare to make a move. Zhuobuchuan said, therefore, we must not inform Wushuang and disturb his mind. Zhong Wuyin said with a bitter smile, we can hide it from Wushuang. However, if the Heavenly Emperor Gate did it, they will think of ways to spread the news. By that time, it would be difficult for Wushuang not to hear it. Third brother is right. There's no way to hide it. Paper can't wrap fire. While they were speaking, the sound of footsteps came from the outside. Qin Lianshan, De Shi Ming, and a supervisor of the Coiled Dragon clan rushed over together. The supervisor was very apologetic. Everyone, I am truly ashamed that such a thing has happened in the vicinity of my Coiling Dragon royal manor. Everyone in my manor is deeply frightened and uneasy. I have already passed this news to the young miss and the young master. Zhuobuchuan immediately said, don't say that, we have disturbed you at the Coiled Dragon royal mansion. Now that we have caused trouble for you, of course we should apologize. That supervisor said, please rest assured, for this matter, regardless of who did it, the truth will be revealed. In the end, when the truth comes to light, the Coiled Dragon clan will seek an explanation from them. Patriarch Debeo has gone to the first-rate dragon palace. The other two patriarchs are in solitary training. Regardless, I have already thought of a way to send the news to the third patriarch. I believe that he will come out soon. Mr. Supervisor, for this matter, we would not dare to disturb the third patriarch's solitary training. Qin Lianshan and De Shi Ming, the father-in-law and son-in-law, also felt deep sympathy for the Stargaze Palace. All of them came over to comfort them. Tan Zhongqi said, Junior brother Lianshan, you should also pay more attention to your personal safety. I am afraid that enemy's first target is not Wei Yi and Mu Ji. Qin Lianshan said with a grave expression, I am ashamed that because of Wushuang, I have implicated everyone. However, Zhuobuchuan said, Patriarch Lianshan, you are treating us as outsiders. If it weren't for Wushuang, it's uncertain whether the Stargaze Palace would still exist. Just that heavenly Luo Daoist sect alone is enough to destroy the Stargaze Palace 10 times over. I only hope that Wushuang can grow quickly and shatter the Heavenly Emperor Gate scheme. And save the two young people. Qin Lianshan gave a deep sigh. When Lei Yu and Xian Tianwu arrived at the border area, they immediately sent the information to the Heavenly Emperor Gate's intelligence network at the Endless Eastern Sea. Of course, spreading rumors required some technique. They must not say that the Heavenly Emperor Gate did it, yet they must let Qin Wushuang guess that it was done by the Heavenly Emperor Gate. In other words, they must achieve a tacit mutual understanding. In the past few days, clearly more martial artists had gathered at the Rising Sun City. Qin Wushuang took it all in his eyes and knew what was going on. Yet, he did not expose it. How could he not know that many people here had come for him? Especially when he observed, through the observant finger jade plate, that He Xinyu had clearly arrived at the border of the Rising Sun City. Yet, he did not show himself. Clearly, he was scheming something. However, Qin Wushuang knew his whereabouts like the back of his hand. How could he care? Now, he was considering whether to erupt at this Rising Sun City or to lure these people to the rushing Current Valley. To be continued. If you want to know about the future, please log on to www.chidian.com. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 766. Recently, Mi Jia's mood was very irritable. It was because her woman's intuition made her realize that some indescribable hostility was pressing down on her head like a dark cloud. If it wasn't for Qin Wushuang opposing her with all his strength, with this sorceress personality, most likely she would have done more crazy things. This time, Mi Jia was able to endure silently because she had caused trouble in the Yazi Dragon City last time. She did not dare to act rashly again. With Mi Jia's personality, if it was during normal times, even if she had suffered once, she would certainly do things her own way and would certainly not change her style. However, this time she could not explain why. Under Qin Wushuang's prestige, she was unexpectedly very obedient for the first time and did not dare to cause trouble again. Standing before Qin Wushuang's door, after hesitating for a moment, Mi Jia gritted her teeth and pushed the door to enter. Qin Wushuang had already been in seclusion for many days. Mi Jia was indeed annoyed that no one spoke to her these days. He slowly opened his eyes and saw Mi Jia's listless face. Qin Wushuang said indifferently, "Miss Mi Jia, you can't hold it in anymore?" Mi Jia was extremely gloomy. "Kid Wushuang, are you here to challenge the rushing current valley or to cultivate in seclusion? I don't want to be your free protector." Qin Wushuang said curiously, "Are you my protector? These few days, you have been pacing back and forth in front of my door many times, but I don't seem to feel your sincerity as a protector." Mi Jia said with vexation, "I am protecting you in the dark, all right? All right, I will not talk to you anymore. The dense fog over there has gradually dispersed and the weather is gradually getting better. When are you preparing to depart?" Qin Wushuang shot a glance outside the window intentionally or unintentionally. "When we depart does not depend on you and me, but on others. Miss Mi Jia, could it be you don't know that we are already trapped in a tight encirclement?" "Who says I don't know? If I didn't consider that you are in seclusion, I would have already killed my way out. Why would I wait until now?" "Kill your way out?" Qin Wushuang said jokingly. "Do you think you can kill that many? Other things aside, can you deal with He Xinyu? He Xinyu is finally here?" Mi Jia was shocked. "Humph," Qin Wushuang said coldly. "He is here, but I don't know what kind of conspiracy he is playing. He is unwilling to enter the city. They must be plotting outside the city." Mi Jia was surprised. "How did you know?" "I have my own plans," Qin Wushuang said calmly. "Then what should we do? Can you guarantee that when we leave the city, we will avoid them?" Mi Jia asked worriedly. After all, she had seen He Xiniu's methods. Now that they had made a comeback, there must be accomplices. In that case, the heavenly network might be waiting for them outside Sunrise City. Avoid them? Qin Wushuang snorted and asked, "Why should we avoid them?" Mi Jia was a little surprised. She looked at Qin Wushuang and stuttered, "Then what do you mean? Since he is waiting for me there, wouldn't it be a pity if I don't go and meet him?" Qin Wushuang smiled coldly, "I am worried about you instead." "Worried about what?" Mi Jia's self-esteem suddenly overflowed. "You are not afraid. Do you think I will be afraid? I don't know if you are afraid or not, but we are on the same journey. If something happens to you, it won't look good on my face." Qin Wushuang laughed. "Humph, don't look down on me. Even if I can't defeat that He Xinyu, I still have the ability to escape." "Really? If that's the case, then I am relieved. How about this, you leave first. According to my calculation, that He Xiniu's main target is me. If you go out, he shouldn't alert the enemy. As long as you enter the rushing current valley first, I will be able to meet up with you later." "No, isn't this making me a deserter?" Mi Jia immediately disagreed. Qin Wushuang scolded, "Idiot woman," in his heart, but he said, "This is the best way. If you don't leave, then we will part ways here." Mi Jia glared at Qin Wushuang. "Are you looking down on me?" Qin Wushuang shook his head helplessly. "I really don't know what to do with you. Listen carefully, if both of us break out at the same time, the other party will have more target. If they really want to attack you and besiege you, I definitely won't leave you to die. You don't want to be flustered at that time, right? Believe me, you leave first. This is the best way. Then when are you leaving? Mi Jia asked angrily. I still have at least 7 days. The next 7 days are very crucial for me. Mi Jia was not stupid. She asked sternly, Are you going to break through to the Supreme Tao stage? Qin Wushuang smiled but did not answer. Mi Jia could not help but ask, I have a question that I have always wanted to ask you. You obviously did not enter the Supreme Tao stage. Why is it that no matter if it is your physical body or your realm, you are not weaker than the Supreme Tao stage? In the end, how many secrets do you have that I don't know? You want to know? Mi Jia nodded unconsciously. Then, she seemed to realize that Qin Wushuang would certainly not tell her. She said with resentment, Is it fun to keep me in suspense? Qin Wushuang said leisurely, If there are any secrets, there will be a day when the truth comes to light. Mi Jia mumbled, pretending to be mysterious. Indeed, the truth was as Mi Jia had said. Qin Wushuang's journey at the endless Eastern Sea in these few months had truly allowed him to show signs of a breakthrough. Initially, the stage from the peak of the common mysterious stage to the Supreme Tao stage could be said to be easy. However, to the majority of elite warriors, it was incredibly difficult. In other words, this stage differed from person to person. If one had a good foundation and outstanding talent, this stage would be incredibly easy and the time spent would be short. If one did not have enough talent and aptitude, most likely breaking into the Supreme Tao stage would be a mission that could not be completed in one's lifetime. To Qin Wushuang, in fact, he already possessed the foundation of the Supreme Tao stage with all the conditions. Only, he needed a process where the conditions were right and success would follow naturally. Initially, this process would not have come this quickly. However, because of that transaction at the treasure pavilion of Fairy Dragon, he had acquired the Recuperate Pearl. To Qin Wushuang, this Recuperate Pearl was definitely like a tiger that had grown wings. It directly reduced Qin Wushuang's time in this stage by 1/3. Initially, according to Qin Wushuang's progress, he should have needed about a year. However, with the Recuperate Pearl, it only took him 3 to 4 months to reach this crucial step. Vividly, Qin Wushuang sensed a trace of heavenly mystery. He knew that the Supreme Tao stage was already knocking on the door. Finally, a trace of dawn had emerged for this long-awaited Supreme Stage, the Supreme Stage that countless martial artists yearned for even in their dreams. It was beckoning to Qin Wushuang. The Supreme Tao Stage could condense the Divine Soul. As long as the Divine Soul did not die, one's life would not die. For cultivators, entering the Supreme Divine Tao was equivalent to obtaining a much longer lifespan than ordinary cultivators. Additionally, theoretically, the undying divine soul of the Supreme Tao stage was indestructible. Of course, this was only in theory. To Supreme Tao elite warriors, since ancient times, there had never been an absolutely immortal Supreme Tao elite warrior. In the history of the Tian Xian land, it seemed that no Supreme Tao elite warriors from the immemorial era had lived until now. They either turned into ashes in the countless Supreme Tao calamities, or they were killed by their enemies. Or, after their divine soul reincarnated, their enemies learned about it and killed them directly. It was easy to say that the divine soul was indestructible, but it was extremely difficult to achieve. Despite this fact, in the end, the Supreme Tao stage was a dream that countless martial artists yearned for day and night. After all, entering the Supreme Tao of Gods meant being reborn, attaining a higher level, and entering a supreme realm. Not to mention anything else, just the oppressive feeling from the Supreme Tao stage to ordinary martial artists, the lofty and superior attitude was enough to drive countless martial artists crazy. Who wouldn't hope that a fellow cultivator who was at the same cultivation level as himself in the past would respectfully address him as senior after he entered the Divine Tao? In the Tianxian land, the Supreme Tao stage meant status. It meant entering the top class and being qualified to participate in the high-end world of the Tianxian land. When Mi Jia saw Qin Wushuang's expression, she felt incredibly astonished inwardly. She swore, such a monstrous person. If I remember correctly, the first time I saw you, you were only at the Ravine Mysterious stage. In just half a year, you made continuous breakthroughs? Are you still a human? Of course, Qin Wushuang knew that this sorceress was scolding him in a roundabout way. He laughed. If scolding me can make you feel better, then keep scolding me. However, when you go out, remember to close the door. Mi Jia cast aside her lips and said, Don't you need me to protect you? Do as you wish. Will you die if you beg me? As long as you beg me, I will protect you. In the end, Mi Jia wanted to defeat Qin Wushuang verbally. It's better to rely on yourself than others. Not to mention, AI Simo is here, right? Qin Wushuang shot a glance at AI Simo. Mi Jia cried out, You are using child labor. Qin Wushuang waved his hand impatiently. I don't have time to bicker with you. Since you like to hear it, then take it as me begging you. Mi Jia muttered, Is there anyone who begs like this? However, she still smiled and said, All right, stinky brat, I will make an exception this time. Later, after you enter the rushing current valley, you have to work harder for me. After saying that, she floated out like a gust of wind. Qin Wushuang summoned the two spiritual beasts out and gave them the dragon breath seal. In addition to AI Simo and Mi Jia, there was definitely not much of a problem in terms of protecting them. Even if a strong enemy barged in, they could also deal with it for a while. It was not to the extent of being the first to be attacked. The reason why Qin Wushuang wanted to break through so urgently was also because he had a layer of consideration. He had fought with He Xinyu before and knew that person's methods. Unless he, Qin Wushuang, entered the Supreme Tao stage, otherwise, he would definitely not be able to eliminate He Xinyu. As long as he entered the Supreme Tao stage, there would be plenty of opportunities. Not to mention killing a transformation Supreme Tao elite warrior, Qin Wushuang still had some confidence in eliminating He Xinyu, a 6th or 7th tribulation Supreme Tao warrior. 1 week's time, Qin Wushuang was very confident. Perhaps, if everything went smoothly, 3 or 4 days would be enough. After all, he was now fully prepared, and the east wind just happened to blow in. When the conditions were right, success would follow naturally. Qin Wushuang's heart was as still as water. Now, the dragon breath that he absorbed from the Supreme Tao of the Flood Dragon clan, as well as the small amount of dragon breath that he absorbed from He Xinyu, had almost been refined by him. These two dragon breaths had also triggered the demon dragon bloodline in Qin Wushuang's body. It also played a role in promoting Qin Wushuang's breakthrough. Regarding this matter, Qin Wushuang was well aware of it. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 767. Qin Wushuang remembered the days he spent at the Stargaze Palace. Although he had stayed at the Stargaze Palace for less than 3 years, to Qin Wushuang, it was a period of growth for him. It was also a period of time for him to mature and experience the wonders of this world. Regarding his experience at the Stargaze Palace, Qin Wushuang cared deeply about it. Deep inside his heart, the Stargaze Palace always had a place. This did not come out of nowhere. From the bitter training at the entrance, to the outstanding performance at the end of the year competition, to becoming friends with his senior brothers, to the life and death battle at the Green Jade Mountain and the Archaic Mysteries sect, to the Three Empires Invitational competition, to the invasion of the Nine Raven Empire, it could be said that Qin Wushuang had experienced too much with the Stargaze Palace. Naturally, Qin Wushuang knew what Wei Yi and Zhao Muji meant to the Stargaze Palace. When Mi Jia saw Qin Wushuang's terrifying expression, she gave a light cough and asked, "Are you planning to return to the Xian Yuan Mound? Or?" Qin Wushuang thought, "If I go back now with my strength, I am afraid I will not be able to compete with Heavenly Emperor Xian Tianwen." The head chief used his divine soul to seal the Nirvana heavenly plow and suffered severe injuries. He would not be able to deal with Xian Tianwen. Most importantly, the attitude of the Xian Yuan totem clan is not clear. To what extent will the Xian Yuan totem clan interfere? It would be useless to return to the Xian Yuan Mound now. The people who captured Wei Yi and Zhao Muji must be from the Heavenly Emperor Gate. Of course they captured them for me. If I had not appeared, perhaps these two would have suffered some hardship, but they would not have lost their lives. Or else, they would not have been able to threaten me. Thus, I still have room to maneuver. I have come to the endless Eastern Sea for less than a year. There are still a dozen years until the Heavenly Emperor election. If I go back now, not only would I not be able to save them, most likely they would take advantage of me. Qin Wushuang calculated inwardly. He knew that to him, the situation was extremely grim. If he went back, certainly he would fail. Not only would he not be able to save them, most likely he would ruin the entire situation. If he continued to cultivate, there was still a chance for him to turn the tables around. However, this required patience. Raising his head, Qin Wushuang's gaze was resolute. "Didn't you say that the rushing current valley has already cleared up? Let's go to Tang Valley." Mi Jia was shocked. "Really? What?" Qin Wushuang asked. "Is there a problem?" Mi Jia spread out her hands. "If you leave now, I won't blame you for going back on your words. I've always heard that you're a righteous man. This young lady doesn't want to ruin the friendship between the two of you." Fellow disciples. Qin Wushuang muttered these two words with a dignified expression. In any case, the Heavenly Emperor Gate will definitely pay the price. With my current strength, if I cannot defeat Heavenly Emperor Xian Tianwen, it would be useless to return to the Xian Yuan Mound. If I didn't have any other important responsibilities, I might have done it even if I knew it was impossible. However, at this moment, I carry the great responsibility of the Qin clan's crisis. It would not be a wise choice to strike a stone with an egg. Now Mi Jia realized something all of a sudden. She looked at Qin Wushuang with a complicated gaze. "In this case, let's go to the rushing current valley. However, it's not easy to leave now." Mi Jia's brows were concealed with worry. "On the outside, there are many existences that are casting covetous glances at you and me. Listen to my plan, you leave first. Wait for me near the entrance of the rushing current valley. With your identity as a disciple of the Horned Dragon clan, not many people would dare to offend you. Their main target is me. If I leave, won't you become the only target?" Mi Jia was still unwilling. "Don't worry, these people cannot keep me." Qin Wushuang's eyes were calm and confident. This time, Mi Jia was no longer willful as she nodded. "All right, I will listen to you. However, you must promise me that you must come out alive. Please, don't make it so melodramatic." Qin Wushuang waved his hand as he could not bear it. "Wait for me there, perhaps I will arrive right after you." Qin Wushuang's calm tone was filled with unparalleled confidence. "All right." Mi Jia changed her outfit slightly and floated away. Qin Wushuang opened the observant finger jade plate and observed Mi Jia's figure until she left the rising sun city. During this period of time, that He Xinyu indeed showed some unusual movement. However, in the end, he did not deal with Mi Jia. Obviously, this He Xinya's main target was indeed Qin Wushuang. The corner of Qin Wushuang's mouth overflowed with a trace of an evil grin as he muttered to himself, obtaining the graceful spiritual bow, as expected. An ordinary man is innocent, but treasuring a jade ring becomes a crime. This graceful spiritual bow allowed my life to be filled with legends. Naturally, it would be accompanied by these battles. Since I possess such a divine object, I must have the mental awareness to face everything. Hizinu, let me start with you. Even if the road ahead is filled with bones, it will not stop me from moving forward. Whoever stops me will have to die. In his mind, evil thoughts arose abruptly. The murderous aura that the graceful spiritual bow gave him became even more intense and overflowed even more wildly. The current Qin Wushuang was no longer that martial artist who would allow others to bully him before making a move. Because of the graceful spiritual bow, even if he had to offend all the practitioners, he would not hesitate. Whoever conspires against me, they must have the mental awareness to die. Thinking of this, Qin Wushuang's back shook. The purple cloud in yang wings that had evolved again after breaking through to the supreme Tao stage emitted enchanting purple gas. Instantly, it filled the entire space. At this moment, the purple cloud in yang wings had already evolved to the penultimate level, which was also the sixth evolution. Although it was not the final form, the purple gas had already formed. It was only one step away from the final form of the two extremes of yin and yang. When this purple gas was activated, its imposing manner indeed had a majestic atmosphere that could swallow the heavens and absorb the earth. Qin Wushuang stomped his feet and his figure turned into a purple flowing light as he dashed straight up. The purple cloud in yang wings that had undergone the sixth mutation could not be compared to the past. In the blink of an eye, it was like a sudden storm, lightning and thunder. In the sky above the entire Sunrise City, one could only see a terrifying purple gas gushing out. In the blink of an eye, it rushed out of sight. Purple gas from the east. Supreme Tao purple gas. The entire Sunrise City was suddenly filled with exclamations. Looking at this magnificent purple gas, their hearts were throbbing with a sense of amazement. Oh no, it's Qin Wushuang. Yes, that pair of wings, it must be him. Oh no, let him escape chase. Inside the rising Sun City, those powerhouses that had been eyeing Qin Wushuang covetously finally woke up with a start. They realized that the situation was far from reassuring. All of them shouted and chased after that ball of purple air. Qin Wushuang's eyes were firm as he observed the observant finger jade plate. The target was outside the east gate of the Sunrise City, which was the only way from the Sunrise City to the rushing current valley. Of course, this was also the place where the people who were eyeing Qin Wushuang had set up the most ambush. With the graceful spiritual bow in his hand, Qin Wushuang was majestic, as if a god had descended from the sky. With his speed, even the people who were ambushing him could not react in time. Hizinu was discussing something with Shu Ye of the Yazi tribe at the east gate. Shu Ye was an elite warrior of the Yazi tribe who was on the same level as Hizinu. His tone was somewhat displeased. "Zinyu, didn't you say that girl Mijia offended you? Why did you let her go? The non-9 dragon clans and the true 9 dragon clans have never dealt with each other. I want to capture that girl and humiliate her. It's also good to show the horned dragon clan who's boss." Hizinu forced a smile and said, "It's easy to capture that girl, but that kid will be alerted. It will be difficult to capture him. The graceful spiritual bow is much more important than that girl. As long as we capture that girl, aren't you afraid that the kid will be captured?" Shu Ye disagreed. "Brother Shu Ye, you only know one side of the story and don't know the other. Although that girl is on the same side as Qin Wushuang, she's not related to him. However, she and that brat were not related to each other. Even if they were in love recently, they were only husband and wife, who were just putting on a show. Would that brat really risk his life for her?" Hizinu's words also appeared to be reasonable and well-founded. Shu Ye said impatiently, "Even if what you said is reasonable, if that kid doesn't come out, are we going to wait here forever?" Hizinu forced a smile and said, "The inside of Sunrise City is not an ordinary place. It's a place that even the forefather dragon tribe will check. How would you and I dare to act rashly in the city? Don't worry, that kid won't stay there forever. Shuya snorted. Just as he was about to say something, he suddenly frowned and looked at the direction of Sunrise City with a deep gaze. From afar, a ball of purple gas was rushing over like lightning. What's that? Shuya's heart tightened. Zinnia took a look and said happily, Everyone, pay attention. It's that kid. He's planning to barge in. Haha, he's courting death. Before he could finish speaking, a sharp whistling sound came from the sky. Qin Wushuang's voice was like thunder. Today, those who block me die. After he finished speaking, the graceful spiritual bow appeared in his hand and 3 shooting sun arrows were hung on the bowstring. He activated his divine power and poured his divine power into the bow and arrows. Purple gas and golden light intertwined with each other and overflowed with divine power, making people's hearts tremble and their spirits soar. That golden light suddenly scuttled out from the purple gas and became one. A semicircular attack wave brewed by the golden light rapidly spread out. The entire sky was instantly covered by this semicircular golden light. The dazzling light made most of the people unable to open their eyes. Within the golden light, the 3 shooting sun arrows were like divine dragons dancing. They actually carried a powerful dragon breath and faintly showed signs of transforming into the shape of a dragon. The group of cultivators who bore the brunt of the attack immediately felt suffocated in front of this powerful attack wave. Not good, retreat! There are arrows, quickly hide. In the midst of the panicked screams, 20 to 30 figures fled in all directions in a flurry. They simply did not dare to face the attack head-on. Like startled sparrows, they fled in all directions. Qin Wushuang urged the purple cloud in yang wings, and did not slow down his speed. He followed the shockwave of that golden light and raised the graceful spiritual bow from his hand again. Still, he hung 3 shooting sun arrows on top of it and shot them after accumulating power. Rumble, rumble. The aura of the golden light tearing apart the blue dome of the sky produced waves after waves of monstrous explosions. It shook the clouds and made the blue dome of the sky dim. The 3 shooting sun arrows had already pierced through 3 cultivators who could not escape in time with lightning speed and directly exploded into dregs. Qin Wushuang roared and had already rushed to within 30 miles of Zinnia's group. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.